That's where we are right now. So as you can see, there's a lot of coaches we have to catch up with honoring. So we're excited to do so tonight. I do want to highlight a couple of special awards. One of our inductees got a special national award, the John Wooden Award. First, we have our 4A state coach of the year in the building, Brian Hill. And then one of our inductees, Ken Roberts, got the John Wooden Legacy Award. Which is a great award that each state has an honoree, and our Washington State inductee is Ken Roberts, and he's entered in a national finalist for that award as well. So we're excited about hearing about the outcome of that award. I want to share a couple of thoughts before we move into our special program with all our speeches. One of my favorite quotes, as you can see, was from Pastor Billy, the late great Pastor Billy Graham. He said, I don't want to mess up the quote. A coach will impact more people in 1 year than the average person will in an entire lifetime. And there's so much to say about that quote. You know how it is. Your daughter comes home, coach said this, coach said that. Right? Very rarely she's saying, my science teacher said this, my math teacher said that. Right? It's always coach, right? Coach said this. And it's so true, the impact that coaches make, right? And I'm not minimizing all the other teachers by any means, right? But we spend so much more extra time than that hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes that we have with our students, than their teacher does, right? And so there's so many things that we're being blessed by our players, but as our coaches are also blessing their entire community as well, not just their individual players. So I'm excited to hear all the great moments, memories, the legacy that each coach has left. It's going to be an exciting evening, and I am going to be super inspired and ready to get back into the gym afterwards. So without further ado, I would like to bring up our first speaker, introducing Coach Tom Petrosov, and that is alum Chelsea Williams.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Williams. I wanted to take a moment to congratulate all of the recipients here tonight. This is quite the prestigious award, coming from a teacher and someone who's coached myself. I also wanted to take a moment to thank Dan Taylor. I was talking to my dad earlier about all Dan and his team has done in order to make these awards happen for women's basketball, which is a pretty big deal. But at the end of the day, I'm here for Tom Petrosov. So hi, Tom. I'm super honored to be speaking here on his behalf as one of his former players. He's been an incredibly influential person in our community. He was my coach. He was my sister's coach. He coached alongside my brother. He was the athletic trainer for my dad's football team. He was the chief of the fire station. He drove dump truck. There wasn't really anything that this guy didn't do in our community. So I had 4 minutes. We kind of cut in half our players' speech time here. That's not enough time at all to truly encompass what a phenomenal coach and person that Tom is. There's so much to say, things I probably should have told Tom a long time ago. So I wanted to start with what did Tom teach me as a player and as a person? Tom taught me how to play with heart, how to leave it all out on the court, every play, every moment, every play, to really trust my instincts as a player, which took me a while to get there, I think. I think Tom taught me to play like I was 6 feet tall. And I'm not 6 feet tall. I've actually grown 2 inches since high school. So being a small person in a small school where there's not a lot of athletes to choose from, he really made me feel like there wasn't anything that I couldn't do out there on the court. One of my core memories, which I don't know if Tom remembers at all, is pregame my senior year. We're getting ready. We're doing the tip-off practice, and I'm looking around at this girl that's 5'7", this girl's 5'8". She's 5 foot flat. I'm 5'3", and Tom goes, "Well, Chelsea, get out there." And I was like, "I don't know how to do a tip-off, Tom." And he was like, "Get the ball." And so I kind of did for the first few games till people realized that I probably had no right to be there. Another time, I remember Tom called a timeout and he was so mad at one of our posts. She was apparently not playing good enough defense. And they kept getting the ball to their low post over and over, and calls a timeout and he goes, Chelsea, I want you to front that girl. Like, John, that girl's 6 feet tall. What do you want me to do? I don't know how to front that girl. And he goes, you get in front of her and you get the ball. And so I did a few times and he goes, get out of here. That was enough. That was enough. And there was just a million stories like that where I didn't believe that I could and Tom did. And I think that that's how all of his athletes felt. He was also a master of just discovering and highlighting strengths of his players. When you're at a small school, you don't always have tall players. You don't always have quick players. You don't always have as many players to choose from. One memory I have is we had a bunch of short, quick girls on the team, and Tom invented this play called 2-dog, which I think turned into 3-dog. I'm not sure. And it was me, my sister, 5 foot flat, another girl, and he'd just say sick 'em. And it was a full court press, and we'd just run around like crazy and get some steals. And he just knew how to take the players on his team and adapt to the situation. And as a coach myself, I don't think I ever quite figured it out. Tom did. Something else that is super noteworthy to me is that Tom really taught me how to overcome losses and mistakes, which carries over into your, adult life. I know he did tell me he'd wring my neck if I got a 5th foul a time, or, a few times I was known for fouling, but really, I felt nothing but encouragement through and through. No guilt for mistakes, no shame. If anything, he helped me understand to use losses to fuel my next game and my motivation to win the next game and give it my all. Although I would oftentimes foul within the first 30 seconds of the game, and Tom would say, "You little stupid." I really remember my last game, my senior year. We didn't have as much success as some of Tom's other teams, so it was pretty rough for me. And I told myself I wouldn't cry. I wasn't much of a crier in sports. But as soon as Tom pulled me into a big bear hug, which is just Tom's style, the tears flowed. And he was a second dad to all of us. All of his players, I think, would reflect that. Tom's legacy, like I said, is huge. It's certainly bigger than stories from one athlete. So something that I did was I reached out to some past athletes and just had written down some things that they had said. Tom Petrosov was the reason I was and still am so passionate about basketball. Every once in a while, I can still hear him say, "What are you doing, you little stoops?" This one's not PG. I gotta save it for another time, Tom. What I remember most about Coach Tom was how much he cared and the chocolate milk. Someone else said, definitely him kicking the bench and getting us Wilcox chocolate milk. And then there's so many more stories, so many athletes that had something to say, but in closing, I wanted to share a list of words that describe Tom. I compiled this list after talking to multiple athletes, multiple people in our community, everyone that loves Tom. And I just said, what word comes to mind when you think of Tom? And here are some of those words: dedicated, loving, patient, impactful, successful, influential, passionate, and finally, the words of my own mother, he has the biggest heart. Congratulations, Tom, on this well-deserved award. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Alexa Ford.
I had the immense privilege of being a Wolfpaw Valley Lady Viking for some of the best years of its history. I'm sure that I'm biased when I say that, but I will always see it that way. I was a student athlete at Wolfpaw Valley High School from 2001 to 2005. However, I considered myself an honorary Viking for well over 20 years because I was the coach's kid. Basketball was quite literally a part of my entire life, as I was born the morning following Tom's first game as a varsity girls coach. From then on, I went to practices, I rode the bus, I went on scouting trips, I got shooting shirts that matched the team, and I became the manager when I was old enough. He and I would go on multiple basketball camps every summer, my favorite being the individual girls camp at Gonzaga University. I grew up immersed in this lifestyle and I would not have had it any other way. I was surprised when I got older that not all kids loved it when their parents coached them. That was surprising to me. I guess I was one of the lucky ones, as it was my absolute favorite part of athletics. I saw how my dad took each team and raised the young ones while nurturing the veterans. I could see these players evolve from baby freshmen to dependable upperclassmen. I watched as my dad build a legacy in that basketball program, and I was so happy to be a part of it. They say the lessons we learn as student athletes are never really about sports, as they're about life. Kids need a solid, constant leader. Tom was that and much more. He is probably the most steadfast, consistent human I've ever known, as a coach, as a dad, and as a person. His practices were uniform and diligent, and his game plan was dialed. There was never wonder what was going to happen or what was expected of us. I feel like he showed his very first team what a practice would look like, and they just passed it down year after year. He displayed passion, but also compassion. When a player had a struggle in their lives off the court, he was there. His players sought him out for his advice.
Yeah.
And being somewhat elusive in a social scene, he was not necessarily always easy to find. He wasn't a teacher these kids saw all the time. He was actually the local fire chief. But his players knew that he would be in their corner no matter what. They showed up at his work or at our house whenever they needed some guidance. There was a high level of trust and respect between him and his players. He is and always has been a work hard, play hard type of person. He spent hours scouting teams, so much time traveling, recording, note-taking, trading VHS tapes with other coaches. It was dedication of time and energy. He always, and I do mean always, had a practice schedule written on a yellow steno pad. But there was usually time for a game of bump, some deal making regarding a Sweet 16, or maybe he brought us a half gallon of the best chocolate milk in the world. When we went to B&B camp, we did recruit another coach that helped with a little prank war we had against him, and we made him laugh every single day. We had fun, and he had fun. But when it was time to lace up, game faces were on. The game starts in warm-ups, you guys, he would say. Tom never let us feel like we couldn't win a game, even when the writing was on the wall. He stood tall, arms crossed, had a plan, and seemingly all the confidence in the world that we could pull this off. We felt that, and we believed it too. He always said he didn't do it for the school, for the attention, for the wins, or for the parents. He did it for the players. He was a champion of these athletes, a solid foundation they could count on to guide them on and off the court. And he did so for 23 years, and that is quite a feat. Congratulations to all these inductees. Giving like you have to student athletes is not for the faint of heart. Young women need these positive influences in their life, and I'm happy to see that being recognized. It's an honor to be present with all of you. Congratulations to my dad. Thanks for letting me tag along. Next speaker, who not only was a fellow coach to my dad, but also a wonderful friend, Mr. Tom Sanchez.
Congratulations to each and every one of the inductees and their families here tonight. When my family moved to the Willapa Harbor area in the fall of 1968, my dad was embarking, my dad Bud Sanchez was embarking on his own Hall of Fame football coaching career. He ended up establishing a relationship with a young freshman at Willapa Valley High School. And that freshman was Tom Trozo. Yeah, little did we know that we begin a journey that would start with him being team manager to a student trainer, to a volunteer trainer, to a volunteer coach, assistant coach to head coach. And he was kind of somewhat drag kicking and screaming along that path. I'm something he might talk about a little bit later, but the way it started out and what it's ended up being is really something special. Before Tom was hired to coach Willapa Valley, he was a youth baseball coach in the area for many years. This was my first experience to see Tom in this role, coaching me on his baseball team. It was fantastic in his ability to balance structure and teaching with the fun of the game, the fun of being part of his team. It's clear that he had it as a coach, whatever it is he had. He was wonderful in establishing relationships with his players first and then teaching after that. That's something that he's able to do throughout his career as a coach. One unique at the time was that Tom was not a member of the faculty at Willapa Valley. He was an EMT firefighter for the city of Raymond. He eventually became the chief of the Raymond Fire Department. He was a community coach, first to fill such a role at Valley. He did not have the advantage of knowing kids from their daily activities at school. So that was something he had to overcome. His experience coaching baseball allowed him to do that. It's very successful. I've had the honor to play for Tom, coach with him, hire him to coach when I was the athletic director at South Bend. He is without a doubt class act and deserving of Hall of Fame recognition. He was always a great ambassador, whatever school he was coaching at. Tom is among the people whom I remember from my dad's earliest days at Valley. And I have called him a friend ever since. The success he has had in his career as a firefighter, as a coach, as a family man, truly make him someone to look up to. I know I do. Tom McTrust.
We don't have to stop right back.
Yes.
First off, thank all the people responsible for the induction ceremony tonight. And thank you, Dan Taylor, for all his hard work for organizing the Hall of Fame induction process. I'd like to thank the Washington State Girls Basketball Coaches Association for my induction. I'm tremendously honored. Congratulations to all the inductees. I coached girls basketball at Local Valley High School. It's located in the unincorporated town of Menlo. I graduated from there in 1972. The school was built in 1939, and it was a farming and logging community. It had about 120 kids in the top 4 grades each year I coached, and we averaged about 25 players. You know, sometimes we got as many as 35, sometimes we had 15. The gym was named after a teacher and coach at Valley Donosky Gym. Some of the schools around the area called it the Cow House. It was small, hot, and loud for games. It was the distance between the out of bounds and the sidelines on the side, about 2 feet from the people's knees. And one end wall was one end of the gym was about 2 feet from a wall. And the other end was 2 feet from a stage with the portable bleachers. And that's where all the rowdies sit. And it was home. My basketball coaching career began as a JV boys basketball coach in 1983 for 3 seasons. And as Tommy said, his dad, Bud Sanchez, was the AD at the time, and I wasn't pursuing a basketball coaching job, but I was helping him at the time coach football. And I'll never forget it. And if it wasn't for Bud, I would have never coached basketball. So that rainy night in November, we had a home playoff football game, and Bud and I were standing by the locker room door, watching the boys warm up, and the superintendent walked by and asked Bud if he had a JV boys basketball coach, because practice started Monday. And Bud didn't even skip a beat, he just said, yeah, the big fella's gonna do it. One of my nicknames. And I said, no, the big fella isn't gonna do it. And he goes, yes, he is gonna do it. I could never say no to Bud. He was like a father to me. So the superintendent said, Bud, is Tom gonna do it? And he goes, yes, he is. He'll be there Monday. So that started my basketball coaching career. And Steve Altmeyer was the coach. And I probably learned more from that guy in 2 years than I did in the next 29 years I coached. And as Tom said, I was the first non-faculty paid coach. So I had to have employer support. And I only had 2 employers during that time. And that was the City of Raymond Fire Department and George Bridgewater Logging. And they were both 100% behind me. So it's very easy for me to take care of the basketball programs. I became the girls' basketball coach in 1986 for 23 years. I considered myself a student of the game my whole career and didn't want to let my players down, always trying to figure out how to make the team better. To be successful coach, you must have the support of your family. I met my wife Janice in 1983, so she had to endure the whole 31 years. And it's hard to be a coach's wife. And then we had our daughter Alexa in 1986, and it was a scheduled cesarean for, of all things, first day of my first girls varsity basketball game. So I talked to the doctor, and him and I decided we could do it the next morning. My wife was over pregnant and very miserable. She actually stayed in the hospital the night she was supposed to, the baby. And then he said, "You be here at 6 o'clock in the morning." I said, "Okay." So I went up there at 6 and she had the baby, and we didn't know it was gonna be a girl at the time, and it was a girl. And I told her, I said, "Someday I'll coach that girl." And she just laughed at me and said, "Yeah, right." Anyway, I'm telling you, if there was a Hall of Fame for coaches' wives, my wife would be. She was awesome. Our practices were closed. No one was allowed in the gym when we practiced, and if people tried to come in, we locked the doors. And if we were playing our arch rivals from down the road, we put paper over the windows. Anyway, I asked my girls to dedicate 2 hours a day to basketball, forget about their boyfriends and everything else, and just come to the gym and get better. My teams were always disciplined, fundamentally sound, in excellent physical shape, and played defense very well. I always reminded our teams that our best offense was our defense. We played in a tough district down in District 4, and actually the league championship games, 18 times the school from our district was represented. And we made sure that we played the toughest non-legal schedule possible. My theory was you had to play the best. And when I first started coaching, we started a program called Biddy Ball, and it was first to fourth graders, fundamentals only. And they came every Saturday morning in January to the gym. And at the end, they got a basketball and a shirt, and we let them perform at halftime of boys varsity games. One time the first and second graders would do it, and the next time the third and fourth graders would do it. And it was a really successful program. It kind of got girls ready to go right from the get-go, and they couldn't wait to play basketball. And I remember that one day of practice, the girls said, because they always came in out every Saturday, "Why do we run the same drills every day in practice as the ones we teach the bitty ballers?" And I just said, "When you can do it as well as they do, we will stop." But they just, as usual, shrug their head. Most importantly, I use the game of basketball to prepare my players for life after basketball. My biggest thanks goes to my players. All my coaching success is because of them. We were a happy family. I had their back, they had mine. I always believed as a coach, you're only as good as your players. I always made sure that every player in our program, C squad to varsity, knew that they were a special part of our success. We won as a team and lost as a team. A few of the many highlights for my players: the Seattle Storm had a promotion once where you could choose from 3 different things. And I just not thinking it would ever happen. So I just filled out a form and sent it up and asked that Lynn Dunn, the coach, could come to practice. And they actually sent back and said, yes, she'll be there. So we picked a day and she was going to come. Little did the Storm know that they thought we were in the outskirts of Puget Sound, that they're like 3 hours off. We lived out in farming country, but she said, no, I'm going. We said we were going, we'll go. And my girls are all worried because of our small little gym. You know, I said, why did you do this? You know, she's gonna be embarrassed when she gets there. And she walked in the gym doors and the first thing out of her mouth was, oh, girls, your gym is so precious. You know, so that took the pressure off. And another time we had a Sonics promotion where we came up and played a game for a Sonics game at the Seattle Center Coliseum at the time, now Climate Pledge Arena. And playing in the state championship game in the old barns, they call it the barn, the Spokane Coliseum. That was my first class that I had for 4 years. And that team was special to me. I felt so bad for him when the game was decided in the final seconds. And last but not least, the privilege to coach my daughter. That was a privilege. Coaching the Willapa Valley girls basketball was the most enjoyable 23 years of my life. The players took me on a journey I will never forget. Thank you.
Our, excuse me, our next inductee is Bruce Evans. Please will be honored by Angie McGuire and Father Ray. Angie?
Well, congratulations to all the inductees tonight. A special shout out to our current coaches in Wesco being inducted, Joe Marsh and Ken Roberts, two of my favorite coaches to watch. So congrats to you guys. It's an honor for me tonight to be here to speak on behalf of Coach Evans. I just want to recognize his grandkids that are here tonight that brought Coach Evans' great grandkids to this event. So thank you. It's an honor to speak on behalf of your grandfather. So Coach Evans is a proud graduate of Edmonds High. I see an Edmonds High hat over here, a 1957 grad. He has some former classmates here. And he returned to Edmonds as a teacher after graduating from college. And then when the district opened a brand new high school by the name of Woodway High School in 1967, Coach Evans decided that he would go over to Woodway High School and became the girls basketball coach there. Coach Evans is the only girls basketball coach in Woodway High School history. He coached for the duration of that school from 67 to 1990 when they merged the schools, and then he continued to coach for Edmonds Woodway. During his 30 years at Woodway and at Edmonds Woodway, he set a high standard for the level of play for girls basketball in our league and in the state. Those early and mid 80s teams were known statewide for their tough, hard-nosed defense. There's a huge portion of them over here who know what I'm talking about. They play tough man-to-man defense, and this style of play, this really physical, in-your-face, focused defense is commonplace now, but it wasn't then. And opponents had a really difficult time playing those Woodway teams, right, Mark Albertine? Yes. He knows because he played against them. It's no surprise that during this run in the 80s, some of Coach Evans' teams, in 82, they placed third in state. In 1983, they placed third in state. And then 83, they placed second. And then 1984, they placed first in state. There's a lot of women over here who played on that team. Somebody also mentioned in 85, they did not have a top finish at state, but Coach Evans also that year in 85 coached the girls softball team and won a state championship in 85 in softball. So made up for it there. Coach Evans was a visionary. His early teams were so successful because he had a vision for what he knew that girls basketball could be, and he carried that vision out. He saw it through. In the post-Title IX era, while some schools were just happy to have girls programs, he didn't settle for that. It was, he wanted to take it to the next level, and he really created the blueprint for what powerful, strong, consistent girls basketball programs looked like statewide. He taught solid fundamentals of the game. He coached well-disciplined teams and understood everyone who played for him, understood at every moment where they should be on the court, what their role was, what they should be doing. I was fortunate to play for Coach Evans my senior year. I went to Edmonds High School for 3 years, and my senior year they merged the schools, and I had the opportunity to play for Coach. My 2 takeaways. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought he invented the shell drill, because he was so meticulous and detailed with every single element of man-to-man defense. And it made me a better player. And he was also very pragmatic. I'll never forget, I was playing a game at Monroe High School, and he pulled me out of the game, which at that point in my career had not happened very often. So I was taken aback by it, and he sat me down. He probably sat me for the rest of the half, and he said, Angie, when you're on the break, if it's 1v3, don't take the shot. It's just like, you're not going 1-on-3. I don't know what you've been doing until now, but we're going to fix that. It made me a better player. And I think that all of his former players in this room would attest to the fact that he really was invested in teaching the game the right way and making you a better player. Years later, in the spring of 1996, I got a phone call from Coach Evans. I was an assistant coach at Ferndale High School at the time, and he was getting close to retiring. And he called and he asked me to apply for his position when he retired. I wouldn't have applied for the position had he not called me. I wasn't sure I was ready to be a head coach. And then I got to thinking, well, the fact that he called me and the fact that he thought I could do it made me really think that I could do it. And when I applied and received the position, he was just as generous as he could be with helping me and making sure that I was successful in that role. All these years later, when I think about that phone call, I think it's really not that unusual what he did, because that's what he did his entire career. He really tried to elevate girls and women in sport and would do everything that he could to see his players succeed. That phone call to me was just one example of that. And I'm just one of many former athletes of his who he impacted. And there's a large number of them over here, and many who aren't here tonight. The trajectory of my career in athletics as a coach and then an athletic director really can be traced back to that phone call that he made to me in the spring of 1996. And I will forever be grateful to him for that. So thanks, Coach. I know you couldn't be here tonight, but it's really an honor to celebrate you. I'm going to introduce one of his former players up next. And before I get to that, my disclaimer here is there's a lot of former players of Coach Evans over here. And as a young girl growing up in Edmonds, we didn't have the WNBA. We had like the 1984 Woodway High School basketball team with Barb Wade and Kelly Joy and Karen Bryant. And Tom, when Lynn Dunn came out to your practice, Karen Bryant made that happen for the Seattle Storm. So you can talk to her later. Just what Coach Evans built in the town of Edmonds, which he really put it on the map, and he put it on the map with so many of these women over here. So I'm excited to introduce the next speaker from the 1984 Woodway High School State Championship team, Barb Wade.
I printed my script in 80 font. Wear my glasses just for good. It's my honor to help introduce Mr. Evans tonight. I graduated from Woodway High School in 1984, and I played basketball for Coach Evans for 3 years. I don't know if Coach Evans knows this, but I actually had a choice of which high school to go to, Mount Lake Terrace or Woodway. And I chose Woodway because of Coach Evans and the success of his girls basketball program. We made it to the state tournament all 3 years I was there. My sophomore year, we finished third. We missed getting into the championship game by 1 point. My junior year, we made it to the championship game and we lost by 3 to Seaholm. So my senior year, we make it back to the championship game and we come out of the gates like we played so horrible. I think we were down 17-2 in the first quarter. It was horrible and I literally just said, so this is how I'm going out. Coach Evans was always calm, cool, and collected. He stayed calm and he calmed us down. And then he took us back to our fundamentals and how we got there in the first place. And we scrapped and we fought our way back. And at the end of that game, we were state champs. And what an experience. Mr. Evans never had a losing season. He took 12 teams to top 8 finishes. And so many young women got to experience playing for winning teams and going to state tournaments thanks to Coach Evans. It's obvious by his stats that he was an outstanding coach. He knew the game well and he consistently figured out how to win. He worked hard to develop his players to their highest potential. He cultivated each new group of girls on his team to be a dominating force. What the stats don't show is that Bruce Evans dedicated his coaching career not only to turning out fine athletes, but more importantly, to turning out quality young women who were a little more prepared for life when they left than when they first joined his team. Many of, as Angie said, many of Mr. Evans' players are here tonight. And if you do the math, it's been over 40 years since we played for him. And I think it's a testament to Mr. Evans that so many people are here. I'd love you guys to stand up just so you can see how many players are here. Over 40 years ago, you guys are old. So some memories from some of his players. Liz Armstrong and I remember an experience at the 1982 state tournament. It was the semifinal game. Liz was fouled at the buzzer. No time on the clock. We're down 2 points. She has 2 free throws. So Liz made the first shot. And then the opposing coach calls a timeout to try to freeze her. So we all go into the huddle and we're expecting some wise words of wisdom and some great coaching from Mr. Evans. Instead, he tells us a joke. He said, "Have you guys heard about the 2 maggots making love in dead earnest?" And we all just stared at him like, and it was actually really brilliant. Mr. Evans, he can't get in trouble, can he? Mr. Evans knew that there was no more coaching that he could do for Liz. The only thing he could do was try to calm her nerves. And 43 years later, we both vividly remember that moment. Jody Rinaldi said, "There are 2 words that have stuck with me into adulthood, applicable to life in all ways. I can hear Mr. Evans talking about poise and patience in the face of a challenge." Sandy Mason talked about how much fun Mr. Evans was. And there were a couple of games where he danced a little waltz with me on the court before the game started. She said, I love that and I will never forget it. She also talked about his coaching of shoot out of the top of a phone booth and then put your hand in a cookie jar. And don't give up the baseline. Michelle Gupsh said Mr. Evans always made us feel like we needed to work harder, even if we were winning games. That's what made us good, especially our defense. If we're lucky, someone along our lives, we are exposed to, if we're lucky, somewhere along our lives, we are exposed to individuals who influence us in positive and significant ways. People who make us better and help us reach our full potential. Mr. Evans was such an individual to so many of us. He helped shape our lives, not just through lessons he gave us on the court, but also being a person of character. By his example, we learned about generosity, passion, commitment, competition, camaraderie, courage, grit, perseverance, vulnerability, humility, and humor. He was consistent and tough, but always caring and patient. Always, always, always calm, cool, and collected. He emphasized the importance of a tenacious defense. He set our goals high and made us work hard to achieve them. Mr. Evans not only taught us how to play and understand the game of basketball, he also taught us lessons we have used throughout our lives. Under his leadership, we won a lot of games, but more important than just being winners in basketball, he taught us how to be winners in life. Mr. Evans, he's not here today, but I believe somebody is recording this for him. Mr. Evans, this honor is so well deserved, and we are very, very proud of you. We love you, and we thank you for all your time and energy, for the life lessons you taught us, for the dedication, commitment, and love you poured into each and every one of us. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor. And now I believe we have a taped acceptance speech from Mr. Evans.
Good evening, everyone. I am joining you tonight from my home in Arizona with the help of 3 of my grandchildren who have gone literally thousands of miles out of their way to make this possible. Tanner, Allie, and Spencer, thank you. Thanks also to the former Warrior players who are attending the banquet tonight. I so wish I could meet with you in person again. Thanks also to Angie and Barb for presenting me. Angie came into the Warrior program as a senior when Woodway and Edmonds merged. She was a talented guard with outstanding leadership skills who helped us take 3rd at the state tournament that year. Coaching is in her family's DNA. Her father was a basketball coach, her brother was a basketball coach, and much to my delight, she succeeded me as EW's head coach when I retired. Barb was our senior rock during our 1984 championship season, and never more so than in the championship game. We fell behind by 11 points early in the game, then rallied to cut the deficit to 4 by halftime. After my inspiring halftime talk, we fell behind by 11 again. But Barb and her teammates were not having that. Barb had a couple of crucial 3-point plays, the old-fashioned kind, coming down the stretch, and then, with the score tied, grabbed an offensive rebound and put back a soft jumper that went through the net just as the buzzer sounded. I'm highly honored to be inducted into the Washington State Girls Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame tonight, and honored to be introduced by Angie and Barb as well. Now, as you have no doubt suspected, like most 85-year-olds, I am extremely tech savvy. It was only natural then that when it came time to prepare this speech, I turned for help to AI, artificial intelligence. If high school and college students these days are relying on AI to write term papers for them, why shouldn't I do something similar? So I picked up my phone and tapped the icon for ChatGPT. Honorable Omniscience, I typed respectfully, write an homage to the game of basketball. Basketball is more than just a game, the chatbot replied. It's a dance of passion, precision, and teamwork. Thanks, pothead, I said to listener. I can work with that. But cowabunga, dude, the chatbot added. I can tell by the way you fat finger the keys on your keyboard that you're a guy who has been around a really long time. And if this is for a girls' basketball Hall of Fame induction speech or something, I suggest that from your perspective as an old timer, you comment on the progress of the women's game first, and then conclude with a rousing homage to basketball and to the girls who played for you. Well, that approach seemed to make sense, so here goes. I did not quite get in on the ground floor of what has become the towering edifice of interscholastic and professional girls and women's basketball, but I was close. In 1972, when Congress passed the landmark act known as Title IX, I had just begun my coaching career as an assistant in the boys basketball program at Woodway High School. When I became the girls coach in 1976, there were still some inequities between the boys and girls programs. Girls had finally been permitted to board the basketball bus, but for the first few years, they had to sit in the back. Girls sometimes had to play afternoon games, which were difficult for parents to attend. If they played evening games, they played on Mondays and Wednesdays, not on primetime Fridays, which were reserved for boys. Occasionally, they played in auxiliary gyms or at local middle school gyms. The first girls' game I ever coached was played in the afternoon at Linwood High School, and our schedule that year consisted of 18 games, whereas the boys played 20. In 1984, the year we won the state championship, we opened our season at Madrona Middle School, our feeder school, while the boys played in the Woodway gym. For the first few years, there were no visible shot clocks, just something like an egg timer operated at the scorer's table by a volunteer. And the girls certainly got less attention from the media than did the boys. But bit by bit, progress was being made, both in terms of equality of opportunity and in the skill development of the players and the artistry of their games. Local youth clubs were starting programs for girls, clinics and competitive basketball leagues in the winter, day camps in the summer. Summer camps began to appear at colleges all around the state. The Bob Hubrecht's Les Hobbeger camp at Fort Casey on Whidbey Island, where I worked for a few summers, added a girls' week. Then, in the 80s, came an explosion of summer leagues and AAU leagues and travel teams as the grade school girls were developing their skills and the high school and college players were refining theirs. College coaches were becoming icons. There was the imperious Pat Summitt of Tennessee, the never satisfied Gino Auriemma of Connecticut, the stoic Tara Vanderveer of Stanford, the strident Chris Gobrecht of the University of Washington, stalking the sidelines and blasting the officials. Nobody could berate the officials like Coach Gobrecht. And then along came the combative Kim Mulkey from Baylor and LSU, who wowed us with her baubles and bangles and glitter and her cowboy boots and her buckskin jackets and her floral print jackets and her tiger stripe jackets. And little more than a year ago, no storyline about a college player, whether male or female, drew more media attention than the saga of Caitlin Clark, whose model caused an epidemic of hernias among 8-year-old girls trying to launch three-pointers from the logo. Women's professional basketball, the WNBA, came into existence in 1997, producing a high-quality product with many players becoming household names. For example, Angel in the WNBA was a clue in a recent New York Times crossword puzzle. The answer, of course, was REESE, that is, Angel Reese of the Chicago Sky. And it warms the cockles of my heart to think that the puzzle maker expected her name to be recognized by many readers. And just this year, we saw the inception of unrivaled and exciting women's professional compressed full court 3-on-3 league, whose games were broadcast on the network TNT network. The development of women's basketball, going from the back of the bus to become media darlings, is just a great story, wonderful stuff. And all of us who have played and coached at any of the levels, youth leagues, AAU teams, high school teams, college teams, have had a small but important part in it. But that isn't really why we coaches and players participated in basketball, is it? No, it is not. I hope you will now allow me in this, the final speech of my life, to go off the rails and dive deep into the weeds and lapse into a quasi-mystical meditative state. Because I believe that whether we were conscious of it or not, we were seeking, the coaches in their teaching, the players in their performing, to achieve a kind of transcendence, a unification, a connectedness, an unspoken avowal that for 32 minutes of game time, we would live and die for each other as we immerse ourselves in the enchanted fluidity of this wonderful game of basketball. The players becoming artists, making order out of chaos, using the material of their own bodies, pivoting, jumping, sliding, gliding, mindful of where they are, of where everyone else is, sensing where and when to move, no distinction between action and thought, thought unmediated by language, active but at peace, in their bodies yet detached from them, totally present, in the moment. Their coaches urging them to throw themselves gallantly into the game, to cause each intense moment to matter, to shape space-time with their sometimes choreographed, sometimes improvised particles and waves of movement, to bend it with their pace of play, their extra passes, their ball reversals, their post entries, their screens, their cuts, their stop and go dribbles, to speed it up with their fast breaks, even to bring it to a halt with their timeouts, and to prevent their opponents from shaping it their way by applying defensive pressure, giving them no space or time to execute, swarming them, climbing into their jerseys, denying dribble penetration, bumping cutters off their routes, cutting off passing lanes and angles, jump switching, trapping, harassing the ball with predatory hands, diving for it when it's knocked loose, contesting any shot, boxing out boisterously when it's released, exploding for the rebound, turning game time into time as we all long for it to be. Not just a winding down to death, but motion made distinguished use of in a space where anticipation, imagination, deftness, agility, strength, effort, and courage bring exaltation, at winning their bodies with the motion of the universe to gloriously transcend their human physical limitations and achieve the magical, mystical madness of basketball art. Of course, my Woodway and Edmonds Woodway teams didn't always make art. We certainly lost our share of games, even once lost by 50 points to Clover Park in a regional tournament game. But the joy was in the journey. The joy was in the process. The joy was in the striving together. And I am so, so grateful to have had the opportunity to pursue that quest for a period of 20 years and to have shared it with all of those wonderful girls who came to play for me and you have left with me magic, mystic memories of the way we were or tried to be. Thank you.
Accepting the award issuing for Coach Evans is his grandson Spencer Evans, who flew down to Arizona to film the video for Coach. So thank you, Spencer, for providing that.
Look at the boat. All right, everybody's gonna wave at you. Ready? Everybody give Grandpa a wave.
Couple of things because, it's gonna be a little bit long of an evening because we have so many great memories this year and, the lifetime and the hours that our coaches have spent on their players. We do want to make sure we honor them and bless them, but I want to make sure you all know where the bathrooms are. So out that door and to the left is our junior high building, and it's right there on the left door if you need to go to the restroom. Feel free to do so. Don't all go at the same time though. But coaches, we were used to distractions. So if you gotta go, in the middle of a speech, players too as well. Also, my players are gonna be walking around serving cake. So if you don't want any, you can just wave them off and such. And so, the wave off's good. Coaches know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, but anyways, and then also, my turnover is there were 6 programs printed in color for our honorees and they got mixed in. It's not a raffle. So you were blessed, you can't look under your seat for any prize. But if you have one of those, it would be greatly appreciated if you give them to our honorees. So thank you very much. Next, we have Coach Penny Ginger. And introducing her is alum Kim Salembo.
My dad was a pastor for 40 years and he always said to me, get up, speak up, and shut up. So I'm gonna make this as efficient as I can. Congratulations to all the recipients tonight. What an honor. It's an honor to stand before you this evening to talk about such an incredible coach and my friend Penny Ginger. I will also try not to cry because I'm a crier. I first met Penny when I was a young basketball player for Bainbridge High School in the early 90s, and she was a young coach just getting started. I had never met someone more competitive than myself until she set foot in the gym for the first time. She was a strong female coaching role model, intensely passionate, and able to inspire effort and respect from all her players, and perhaps a little bit of fear, which as a coach I think is healthy. I knew instantly that I would work harder than I ever had, but I looked forward to every practice. From that day forward, she knew the game inside and out and knew how to get the most out of every player. And in those years playing for her, not only did my skill and confidence grow on the court, I learned what it looked like to work hard for something and achieve more than you thought possible. One of my favorite memories playing for Penny, and there were a lot of them, but we were shooting free throws in a game and I was her point guard. And so she called me over, she waved me over as we were shooting free throws, and I thought she was calling me over to tell me what play she wanted to run next. So I ran over there, she beckoned me closer, she threw in a couple colorful words, and she looked at me and she said, if you don't shoot the ball, you're gonna sit right here for this game and every game here on out. And I looked at her and I was like, okay, sure. And from that moment, I knew that she had confidence in me that at that point I hadn't seen. And so I did what she said.
First of all, because I was a little scared, but mostly because I knew I could do it. Because if Penny believed it, it was possible. It's not often that you get to be taught by a coach of her caliber, a collegiate player at the University of Oregon, a state championship winner. But any of us who have had the privilege know what it means to have a coach who knows basketball, is able to teach the game like she could, but most importantly, truly cares for and celebrated her players' successes on and off the court. If my journey with Penny ended there, I would have counted myself as fortunate, but it didn't. Fast forward nearly 30 years later, and she took her final coaching position at North Kitsap High School, where I had been assisting with the girls' basketball program for several years. My relationship with her changed from a former player to being on her staff, along with two other amazing coaches, Kalia Makaiwi and Dave Snyder. The years spent with this group of coaches and athletes is something I will treasure for my entire life. Hours of film were watched, practice plans written up, post-game coaches' dinners, endless bus rides, team camps, so much laughter, hundreds of hours in a gym, a handful of technical fouls, because I told you she's competitive, and a lifetime of friendships were built, all while doing something we loved with people who became family. In those years that she was at North, she coached all three of my daughters, just as she had coached me, with the same energy and passion, and maybe a few more gray hairs. She was able to turn around a program in a short time and take them to their first state tournament in over 30 years. If success is measured simply by wins and losses, championships, or titles, Penny Ginger is one of the greats. But having played for her and then coached alongside of her, there is so much more depth to her than that. Her coaching accolades speak for themselves. But what truly counts at the end of the day is that she spent her career teaching and coaching kids that they are truly capable of greatness. So Penny, I thank you for showing up, for caring for all of your players and coaches, and letting us be a part of your family and your legacy. Thank you for inspiring 2 generations of women in my family that we can be strong athletes and caring community members at the same time. We love you and we celebrate you. Speaker who is also being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year as well, Coach Scott Orness.
All right, good evening, and thank you, Kim. And congratulations to all the inductees tonight. What an honor it is to be here, and thank you, Coach, for allowing me to get up here and celebrate you. I'm one of Penny's biggest fans in this room, and I know there's some that probably argue with me over that. But I got to know Penny as a young coach. I was 26 years old, and I took the boys basketball job at Bainbridge High School, and didn't even know where Bainbridge was and where I was going into this Metro League. And I learned a lot, but I don't think I would have been able to do it without her. We worked closely together, boys and girls teams at Bainbridge, helped each other's teams grow. When we couldn't coach our teams in the fall, we would share, and I would grab her girls and coach them in the fall, and she'd grab my guys and coach them in the fall and get them ready for the season. And taking the time to do that, as all coaches in this room know, it's a lot, right? Because we put so much time in as it is. Fortunately, even down the road, when she went to North Kitsap, I tended to follow her, and I ended up taking the North Kitsap job, and we got to work together there as well, and be able to celebrate and work together and have quite a bit of success in both of our programs. But I think one of the big reasons, at least that I can say for myself, is most of our success, or a lot of our success, came because I got the opportunity to work with her. A few numbers that I think are important. She coached for 26 years and she had 453 wins. That's averaging over 17 wins a season in her career. 18 of her seasons were at Bainbridge High School, where she put together 301 wins. And then went on to North Kitsap in Kingston, where she found success there as well. 6 league titles, 5 district titles, 7 state trophy finishes at state, including the Big Golden Ball in 1999, where she brought the state title to Bainbridge Island. Coach Penny is cut from the same cloth, and you'll see in a moment. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get excited up here or whatever, but she's cut from the same cloth as Bobby Knight, Pat Summit, and Coach Krzyzewski. She spent her early days, and I learned this just last night, traveling around the country when she was a young coach, going to Coach Knight's coaching clinics and Coach K's coaching clinics as one of the only females there. I've seen Penny, and if you've seen her coach, they're always prepared, they were tough, okay, and they played with passion. I asked her what this Hall of Fame nod was all about to her, and her answer was that it was all about her players. Hold on a second, I just lost my spot here. Getting them to compete and play hard and have fun. She wanted basketball to truly mean something to them. She wanted her players to truly love what they were doing and to love the sport, but most of all, play with the same passion she coached with. She's the most passionate coach I've ever been around. There's one time, I think you guys were playing the game after us, and I'm sitting behind the bench, a couple rows up in the stands, and teams down the floor, and she's very animated, arms going, the passion's coming out, and she's yelling instructions to her player who's on the left wing, and the official who's at half court with his back to her turns around and tees her up. And she's like, I wasn't even talking to you. And I still remember that going, oh my gosh. And he knew he made the mistake, but he kept with it. Any new official I knew this is gonna be really interesting tonight. See if he can or she can handle Coach Gainer. Penny's satisfaction of coaching comes from the process. She is in love in life, loves puzzles. And when you open that box of pieces or of your players that are unique and individual each season, try to get them to fit, work together, and make the most beautiful and competitive picture or team possible. That's what it was all about to her. Penny's legacy, that fire, that passion, that love for the game, those connections, that work ethic, that legacy will live forever in her former players, assistant coaches, and people like me that got to witness her coach and to be around her because of this game of basketball. Thank you, Coach. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you the winningest coach in Kitsap County history. Please give a warm welcome to Hall of Famer, Coach Penny Gainer.
Fun thing about Scott, he shows up at Bainbridge, and then I retire and go to Kingston, and then I go to North, and then he comes to North. I get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Guess what? He's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame this year too. So congratulations to Scott. Thank you to Kim and Scott and to all the honorees. It's really a privilege to be up here. A little bit. I do get a little excited when I coach. I've tried to temper it down, they started the seatbelt rule and stuff, but it was really hard on me. I never got kicked out of the game, but I didn't like to sit. So I tried at least to control it till I wouldn't get in trouble, but Kim and Mock and Noe, all my assistant coaches, Gail, Stephanie, you have to have a team. I mean, I had a great team. I had great people. One person that's not here is Dave Snyder. He was a great coach, passed away last year. It was devastating for North Kitsap. He was my JV coach, and I think he was the best coach ever. And in a way that he was a football coach and an excellent track coach, and he was doing basketball because he loved to do it. But his ability to inspire players and to read the room made him a really special person. And if anybody from the Kitsap County area Dave Snyder, died at team camp, at football team camp last year, and it was devastating for us. And I just want to say, I was really sorry for him, but how much impact he had on me as a coach. So that's for Dave Snyder, but all my assistant coaches, I tended to give, I wanted them to be just in the process just as much. So it wasn't just me out there. I was the face, but I had a lot of help, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Every year I started, I tried to get a game with Sandy Snyder. I mean, she was on that list. I had to play Terry Wilkinson. He was on that list. I try to play Sandy every year because we have 10 days to get ready for the first game. And I figure if I play Sandy, you better have everything in because you're gonna get it. So I did that quite a bit. I didn't care really about my record. I was trying to get better by the end of the season. But I did the first game. So she was a really important coach in my career. Chris Gibson at White River. He was super important in my career. He wasn't always at White River. I think he was at, I don't remember, but Chris, I won in 1999 and I had to beat Chris like 5 times that year. And I think he would have won the next year because we were so close. But his point guard blew out his knee, but blew out her knee, Trish. But it was such a good rivalry that made me a better coach. So Chris was really important to me, and another coach that was really important to me is Mike Poindexter up at PA. We had some battles also, and you get coaches that you have to be better. You have to get better to beat the people in your league, and you have to get better to win. So those are some coaches I wanted to have a shout out to. I love coaching, and I love my players, and anything to get them to go. I found that I had to run, and then they're saying how fiery I was. Well, I was a runner, so every game day I made sure I got my run in, because if I didn't, I'd go overboard, right? So I had to be a little bit more controlled. So when I run, I would figure out what play or what players or where should I put the pieces. And I think for me, the art of coaching was trying to find the piece that goes where. Now, who are you going to start, or where should you go? It got to the point with one of my players at North Kitsap, and this goes back to Scott, is my first year there, it's like, well, we have this great shooter. And I was like, yeah, she's good. Yeah, she's a great shooter. So the first time we go out, she comes down, dribbles down, she takes a shot. And I told her, I was like, no, you can't shoot it. You could come down, you gotta pass. You cannot just shoot. You gotta pass first, and it will come back to you. So we go through the season, and she doesn't just jack the shot like she was doing the years before I came. And then we get into playoffs, and I call Scott, and I go, Scott, we're going to playoffs. I need at least five plays for Rebecca. I gotta have her. And so he goes, I'll come over to practice. And he was at Bainbridge. So he came into practice, gave me five plays. And then he taught my girls the 5 plays. So we would go and we'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Rebecca. So we go into playoffs, and every time down, we were calling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it made us, we didn't win the game because I didn't do a very good job defensively scouting, but it was it was just so, she was so great to where she was willing to give up the ball, but still come back to us and win our ball games for us. She was really powerful that way. So that was one thing I wanted to say, Scott, to me, I just used what I had and tried to make it work. Another thing I incorporated at Bainbridge, I started a little kids camp, and I made my players teach it. So I would say, okay, you guys are doing, you got the kids, we get dribbling drills. Well, what do you want us to do? I go, figure it out. You got dribbling drills, and we'd do stations, and each one of my players with a partner would be coaching the little kids. And that really developed our community at Bainbridge. The kids came up, they knew them, they came to games. We always had little kids camp, and it was pretty fun, tiring, but fun. And I also loved to go take my teams to team camp. Team camp was at some university, and you sleep in the dorm. And as I got older, I was like, oh my, I don't know if I could sleep in the dorm anymore. I'm getting kind of tired. Team camp in the summer with your top kids was always so fun. We always had a blast. There was not any year we didn't come back with some kind of memory. And I'm pretty sure that at the end of 4 days, hardly any sleep for the girls, constant basketball for 12, so many hours. They were sore, they were tired, their feet hurt. By the last day, you know, something has blown up. And I think every year at that end, you'd have a half a day, the last day, just to play games. I think every year I said, you know, it's your team. You guys coach it. I'm gonna sit on the sideline. I've had enough. And the girls would come together and it was just amazing how they'd organize their team and they were able to coach. And I loved it because I got the time off, but it was great to see them grow and teach themselves and see the process. And I think that was another thing that I really like to do to help my kids. And so it was fun, you know, it was fun. I have to tell a player about a story about one of my players at Bainbridge. I went in to do the talk and she was eating red vines. I'm like, red vines? I go, what are you doing? We got a game. We're playing in 20 minutes. And she goes, you know, she just gave me a slip like, oh, coach, whatever. So I walk out, I come back, I'm writing on the board. I turn around to start my talk and she had given every one of the players some red vines. So I turn around and they all have their red vines in their mouths. So what can you do other than laugh? And you just laugh and it's like, it's a good one and move on. So I guess I was intense, I guess, and I loved it, but I think it was really fun. It was what I loved. And I could talk about my championship game, probably should, because the year before they didn't get along very good. I mean, I started 5'10", 6'3" guard, 6'2", Brit 6'2", she went to great 3-point shooter, a 6'2". I had all 6 footers but one, and then one of them blew her knee out. So then I had to make a choice whether I was going to play a guard, a freshman, or a senior. And I went for my run. It's like I just think I should play my little freshman. She's a little soccer buzzsaw, and so I did. But first I talked to my senior, and she was really good about it. We get to the state tournament and I started my freshman, but at the end of the game, when that ball goes sailing, my senior guard that came off the bench jumped up and got it over Meadowdale. So we didn't have a turnover and we ended up winning the game. But what made my championship game was that one of our, Katie had cancer. She got cancer. And probably the one thing I always remember about that year was she got nominated as the homecoming queen, and she could barely walk. And it was her teammates that helped her go out to the track and get on the podium so that she could get her award. And that was before we even played the game. So it was a pretty trying year. It was sad and it was beautiful all at once. Katie is great now. I just talked to her mom this 2 days ago, and she's doing great. But it was a team that didn't really get along, and then all of a sudden everything came into focus for them, and it was beautiful. I can't say it, and what we got for that, and what the players felt for that too. But I had a great career. I loved it. I mean, I knew when I was in middle school, this is what I wanted to do. I walked on at University of Oregon, because I wasn't gonna play, but I love watching it. I love the process. So as intense as they say I am, I'm really not. I'm just kind of kid at heart. Right? I just like to go out and play, have a good time. We had a lot of laughs and a lot of cries, and I really am honored to be here, and I really do. I loved what I did. I'm really happy with my career, and I want to thank everybody for supporting me, and I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Our next inductee into the Hall of Fame is Joe Marsh. Lifting Joe's award will be his brother Sean. And speaking on his behalf will be Emma Beamer, Randy Richardson, and his daughter, Kira.
Being in this room with you all tonight, brought together to honor some of Washington's greatest coaches, is incredibly humbling and inspiring. The role of a coach is such a uniquely powerful one. Sure, high school coaches are responsible for athletes for just 4 years max, but as evidenced by our attendance this evening, the impact of a great coach extends far beyond those 4 years. While we oftentimes celebrate winning records and state finishes when we consider a coach's success, truly great coaches offer so much more than that. And what a blessing it is for an athlete to experience this firsthand. I am one of those athletes, thanks to Coach Joe Marsh. My 4 years with him have turned into 13 and counting. Now, don't get me wrong, by no means has Arlington girls basketball enjoyed competitive success under the direction of Coach Marsh. That ring always seemed to elude us, sorry Marsh, but the walls and trophy cases of Arlington High School undeniably captured the basketball dynasty that Marsh has ushered in. So let me be clear that Marsh's basketball mind and expertise set him apart from the crowd. We could probably have a lot of fun here tonight, talking basketball philosophy with the amount of wisdom that's present in this group. I don't think I'd bore anyone detailing the genius of Marsh's coaching decisions, defensive schemes, practice planning, and pregame talks. I wouldn't lose you talking about how he got a group of girls born and raised in Arlington to perennially overperform. Now, as a head coach myself on the other side of sport, I can take my whole 8 minutes raving over Marsh's X's and O's. But that's not why Marsh is so special to me. That's not what makes him a Hall of Fame coach. From a spectator's point of view, one might conclude that Marsh's red in the face competitiveness and intensity is what bore him victory after victory. From my point of view, though, it was the exclusive AGBB handshake in the hallway. The loud greeting across the commons, the type of greeting that a dad uses to embarrass his kids while dropping them off at school. It was the launch, what we now call Caitlin Clark threes, during warm-ups at practice. Make or miss, these shots were followed by the claim that it was in his range. Mind you, this was all while Skilo's I Wish blasted over the speakers, despite her begging for some Fetty Wap instead. The scratchy tuning of the radio at the start of the song never failed to provoke several annoyed groans. I rolled my eyes then, but it's truly one of my favorite ways to remember my coach. In love with the gym and unapologetically himself. Thinking back, I specifically have very fond memories of playing in the Tacoma Dome all through my high school career. Naturally, when the state tournament rolls around every year, I want to go back. It's an event that I look forward to, enjoy year after year, now as a spectator coach. Despite the great display of basketball talent at this year's tournament, however, something felt different. Less satisfying, less familiar. What I recognized was that my attachment was not to a place, but a person. Without Marsh's iconic presence, the dome felt empty. That's because playing for Marsh was more than putting on the Navy uniform and full court pressing teams until they couldn't breathe. It was running through walls for him because you knew he was doing the same for you, both on and off the court. It was an experience of mutual trust. It was an entry into his family. It was a welcoming into a deeply authentic and intentional mentorship, one that would continue to blossom far beyond graduation. Long after playing my last game as Marsh's PG, he has continued to show up for me. Whether it was supporting me on the sidelines of my collegiate games, wishing me a happy birthday, inviting me to coach in the summers with him, giving me his best sideline out of bounds play, or attending my Friday wedding after treatment and dreaded Seattle traffic. Marsh made our bond a priority. I couldn't offer him defensive stops, assists, or play execution after 2016. But as coach, he was never conditional in the first place. In a world where athletes are prescribed value more and more based upon their performance, I am so grateful that I have a coach that did it right. Legacy was a word that Marsh used heavily with my class by our senior year. We took this to heart, played not for ourselves, but for the future of Arlington girls basketball. In tandem with those that came before us, we put Arlington on the map. The effects of Marsh's leadership, however, are not limited to Arlington city limits. The legacy of AGBB and Marsh now go with each of us everywhere we go. For me, the culture and philosophies of my own program are branches off the roots that Marsh established in Arlington. Marsh's emphasis on never getting outworked and playing as one unit live on in the gym at Curtis now. Dead man walking, bottoms, 32 layups, and backward first rim second, among many other drills, continue to show up on my practice plans. You might even see some tricks out of the Arlington playbook down in the South Puget Sound League too. But more important than any play I could ever call, I always refer back to the pages of Marsh's culture playbook. His ability to manage the challenges of coaching teenage girls is something I frequently reflect and act on. He didn't do it well, he excelled. Without knowing it, my athletes are now taken up in the large wake that Marsh has left in the world of sport. Not only will Marsh's legacy live on in this Hall of Fame, but also in the lives of past, present, and future athletes. A ring would have been cool and all, but the way I felt in Marsh's gym, classroom, and his presence will always be worth more than any title or win. And this is the uniquely powerful role of Coach Joe Marsh. Love you, Marsh. Now I'm gonna pass it off to the lovely Randy Richardson.
Thanks, Emma. First of all, congratulations to all the honorees tonight. As Emma said, I am Randy Richardson. I was Joe's assistant coach from 2011 to 2013. Joe and I always joke that I was the worst assistant coach of all time. Because my mentality was exactly the same as his. So it kind of ended up being a bad cop type of situation. And so I was a little shocked when I got the nod tonight to go up here and speak for him. But I was so incredibly honored because to have the opportunity to share my heart about Joe Marsh and who he's been to me in my life, I'm just so grateful for. My earliest memory of Joe was in high school. He was on the boys' side at that time, but in the spring, we'd play open gym with all the teachers and the coaches, and Joe was in the gym, so I didn't know him all that well. But what I did know about him is that he could shoot it, and I wanted him on my team. And I know that because I'm extremely competitive, and there was other teachers and coaches who couldn't shoot it, and I didn't want on my team. I also, in that, I have this vivid memory of Sharon. I didn't know Joe really all that well, but I have this vivid memory of Sharon walking into the gym and she had this baby wrapped around her chest. And based off time, that baby was Kira. And what I also didn't know is that just a handful of years later, what Joe would mean to me, and what he would do is just change the whole direction of my life. I also didn't know that Sharon walking in that gym with that baby would become a great friend of mine and a woman that I look up to and admire deeply for your strength, who you are as a wife, and who you are as a mother. I also didn't know that I was going to have the opportunity to coach that baby wrapped around Sharon's chest. And the amazing strength that you have and who you are, and the amazing woman you are, I just feel blessed to be able to have the opportunity to coach you. In 2011, I came home after playing, And I was done with basketball. And that same summer, Joe got the job at Arlington. He found out I was in town and he gave me a call and asked me if I wanted to coach. And I said, no, coaching's not for me. I wanted to go be a nurse and I was gonna finish up some prerequisites and I thought my career with basketball was over. And Joe didn't let me say no on the phone and said, hey, just come up, talk to me at the high school. So I went up and I chatted with him. And in that conversation, Joe convinced me to coach. And I kind of was like, all right, I'll be your assistant. And he's like, no, I want you to be the head JV coach. And I said, absolutely no way. I did not see myself as a coach. There's no way I was going to be a head coach. And I didn't believe in myself in that way or see myself in that way. However, Joe pushed me. He goes, you are ready. You're ready. You're going to be great. And he literally made me coach the JV team, which I didn't want to do. That moment changed my life. Without Joe taking the opportunity to push for me to see something that he saw in me, I wouldn't be where I am today. Now I'm going into my 9th year as the head women's basketball coach at Central Washington University. And I truly feel like I found one of God's purposes for me in my life. I love to coach and I love my job and what I get to do every single day. I'm so grateful for Joe and what he was able to do for me and help change the direction of my life. What I love about Joe as a coach, I love his fire. I love his passion. I love his competitiveness. I love his confidence. And I love his courage to make big decisions in games and big decisions for his program. I also love how he works the refs. I love it. He's so on them. It's great. Joe is all in when he coaches. He loves it and he gives his team and players everything that he has. And what I love about the most is not 1 ounce of it is self-serving. Not one ounce of it is about Joe. All of it is about his program, his players, and the love that he has for the game of basketball. Fire, passion, competitiveness, confidence, and courage. Man, doesn't that describe every AGBB girls basketball team Joe ever coached? Joe didn't just coach the play or the press or the zone. Joe coaches players' hearts and their mentalities. I believe that's the exact reason why he had so much consistent success at a level that you do not get to recruit your talent. Joe taught his players to fight, compete, and put themselves out there physically, mentally, and emotionally without fear of failure. Wow. I have 2 kids, and I couldn't think of anything more. And what for them to receive from a coach. Joe truly got the best out of his teams and players. And that was a lot of times when I personally don't believe he maybe had as much talent as other teams, but he got the best out of them. And most of all, he helped develop some amazing qualities in the young women that he coached that will benefit them for the rest of their lives. And you can see it right here in this room. There are many of those amazing women here and many more out there just taking on the world in the exact same way. Yes, Joe's legacy leaves behind starting a feeder program that provided countless positive opportunities to the youth within the Arlington community, reigniting excitement around high school girls basketball in Arlington, and flipping a struggling program on its head and having more success than it's ever seen. He had a career winning percentage of 76%. He won 8 league championships, 3 district championships, placed at state 7 times, including 2 second place finishes and 2 third place finishes. He was coach of the year 4 times, including the state coach of the year in 2022. He changed the culture of girls basketball in Arlington. However, personally, I believe one of the most amazing parts of his legacy as a coach started in 2021, when Joe was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. While Joe was hit with the most devastating news that was going to change his life, he decided to continue to coach. He still chose to show up every single day and give to those who are around him. Winston Churchill once said that you can measure a man's character by the choices he makes under pressure. What Joe did these past 4 years and who he was to those around him while facing one of the biggest pressure situations you can think of shows just how amazing and special his character is. What an amazing example to all of us. Joe, you are incredible. You're an incredible coach, an incredible man, an incredible human. I'm so thankful for you and what you have done for me in my life. I'm inspired by you and what you have done in yours. Your legacy will continue to live through me and all of the lives that you've touched through this game that we all love. Congratulations on being inducted into the Washington State Girls Basketball Hall of Fame. You are so deserving in more ways than one, and I'm honored to introduce Kira and Fiona to speak on your behalf.
Hello, congratulations again to all the other inductees. To start, my name is Kira Marsh.
And I'm Fiona Marsh.
And we are the daughters of Joe Marsh. I'm the basketball player. I'm currently a junior at Central Washington University, playing for Randy Richardson.
And I do not play basketball. I'm the horse girl. But my dad says I still have a pretty good jumper in the driveway. I'm currently going to Everett Community College to get my nursing degree. As you can see, our dad could not make it tonight. For those who aren't aware, our dad is currently at in-home hospice. He has been battling stage 4 cancer for roughly 4 years, but he wasn't going to miss this amazing opportunity. He is watching at home, but tonight my sister and I will be reading a speech written by him, his thoughts, and his words.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you tonight, giving what is definitely the most difficult and more than likely the last speech that I will ever give. So it is important that I say some things tonight, not to depress you, but to show you my love for the game and the people who surround me here tonight. So I have to start with thanking some people. I have to start with thanking my wife, Sharon. Without her, I literally would not be alive today to be here for this speech. She cares for me in every way. I am beyond thankful for her love and support over the years. She gave up parts of her life to allow me to live out my dreams, cheering me and my team on from the sidelines at almost every game, home or away. You may have seen her hiding in the corner of a gym during some of the very intense games. Her sacrifices and support is a huge part of the reason I was able to reach this point and speak before you today. I also want to thank my beautiful daughters. I'm lucky to have people in my life who allow me to do what I do. I have to thank my staff who have gotten me through some hard times throughout the years. Some special shout outs, my brother Sean, who has been by my side through every step of the way, both as a brother and a coach. My longtime friend and AD, Tom Royce, Perigo and Macy, who have been far more than my assistant coaches. They are family. Thank you to Dan Taylor and the WSGBCA board for making this such a special evening. I want to thank everyone in this room for allowing my amazing daughters to share my story. But I'll get to more of my people later. Let's talk about the reason we are here, basketball. Basketball has always been an important part of my life. When talking to Sharon, I had a recollection. I significantly remembered my dad dying suddenly 2 weeks before my senior season in high school. He was my mentor in life and in basketball. We spent a lot of time talking about the game and what it meant. This obviously had a huge impact on my senior season, and if I'm being honest, on the rest of my career as a player and a coach. But basketball was the thing that helped me get through that year and the trauma of losing a father. Stepping on the court allowed me to take my mind off the death of my father for a few hours of the day. That opened me up to the power of the game of basketball and in life. It opened me up to the possibilities of becoming a coach one day. Ever since then, I was set on being a coach.
I got my start of coaching in the boys program, coaching alongside Nick Brown, who I borrowed the idea of family basketball, which I've carried throughout my career. After 8 years of coaching boys, I decided that I wanted to take the next step and move over one seat. In 2011, the opportunity arose and I decided to interview for the Arlington girls basketball head coaching position. During my interview, I told a story of my sophomore year in high school. In 1982, the Arlington girls basketball team went on a magical run to win the state championship. My friend Lori Dawn, who is here today, was part of that winning team. Catch her on a break, she'll tell you all about it. I brought up that memory to highlight the feeling of the excited packed gym during that championship game. I wanted to bring that energy and atmosphere back to girls basketball. Having an energized, packed gym was a huge goal of mine.
Well, I got the job. I was fortunate enough to hire Randy Richardson as my first assistant coach. Seems like that was a pretty good move on my part. Our only problem was that we were a bad cop, bad cop duo, which got us into trouble a few times. But her knowledge and passion for the game was a significant reason why we got to a state championship in only our second season. She is one of the many women in my life who bring strength and success to this program. Many of the women who have gone through the program and have gone on to play collegiate sports, become national champions, and even a handful have gone on to be head coaches of their own programs, such as Randy and Emma. What I always wanted to do is make a positive impact on my players. Seeing these young women succeed make me feel as if I have done my part. Each of these individuals have their own stories, some who have overcome great odds, like Gracie Phelps, who has taught me how to overcome odds of my own. These young women are the reason we have built so much success over the years. Some of my most cherished memories are coaching these amazing athletes.
I would like to take you through some of my fondest memories. In my 2012-13 season, we started off 14-0, and we knew we had a shot at something special. We then hit adversity with injuries, but that wasn't going to stop this team. We went on to go to the state tournament and fought our way to a second place trophy. The success of this team led us to go to state the next 3 years, state 4 straight. That 4th year, we made it back to the championship game, bringing back another second place trophy. Alongside this story, there are many more, such as winning a district championship with my daughter on my team, or Grayson Hyatt coming out of a timeout and telling me that they had no idea what they just said, and going in and draining a game-winning shot to go to the state semifinals. Or how about the time I poked out my contact at a Stanwood game in a late timeout? I stepped off the court to fix it while we were down by 8. By the time I came back, we were tied. That's when I realized they didn't really need me. The bus rides. If you ask any one of my players, they will tell you all about our bus rides on the way back after a win and how they sang the entire way home. AGBB camp in the summer, which brought the whole community together. Or chocolate milks and donuts on Saturday practices. Team trips to San Diego, but not the part where a wave took out Sevy Litton's knee. All of my entertaining moments with the refs. I know I have a reputation for having a great rapport with the referees. Jenna Villa broke the record for 3-point shot in a game. When she hit her 10th, the whole gym went wild. She later went on to become Gatorade Player of the Year in 2023. During Kira's senior season, we went to the semifinals where she hit 2 free throws to put us up 1. A few minutes later, Hannah Rourke grabbed a rebound. We were yelling at her to pass the ball to Kira or Jenna, but instead she went up and got fouled. Keep in mind, the year before, Hannah airballed her free throws. So her at the line in a close game made us nervous. But she proved us wrong and knocked both down, winning us the game.
Speaking of Hannah Rourke, she is another one of our players who has made a lasting impact on Arlington girls basketball. She played for me for 4 years. Hannah Rourke was beloved in our program. She was the official and unofficial caretaker of underclassmen. This past summer, at the age of 20, she found a lump in her leg. She tragically passed this winter on January 2nd. Hannah and I shared more than a coach-player relationship. We shared a bond beyond basketball. We shared a mutual battle against cancer. 4 years ago, I got some terrible news. It shook me and my family to its core. I was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 prostate cancer. And part of my reason for hanging on for dear life was for my love of basketball. and the love that has been created in this program. Even with this life-changing news, I decided that I was going to continue my basketball journey for as long as my body would let me. I have given everything I have to basketball, physically and mentally, in a way I never knew was possible. January 10th, I coached what I didn't know would be my last game at Cascade High School. January 12th, I lost the use of my legs, 10 days after Hannah lost her life. I was rushed into emergency surgery due to a tumor they found on my spine, leaving me paralyzed and causing me to have to stay in the hospital for 33 days. On February 13th, I returned home from the hospital, and less than a week later, we got the news that the cancer had spread even more and become uncontrollable. This is when we knew that hospice was now the only option.
I wouldn't wish cancer on my worst enemy, but I have learned a thing or two through this whole process. And the biggest gift I have learned is the gift of love. It is the most powerful experience with cancer and with basketball. The love that has been shown to me through this game, the players, the coaches, the town of Arlington, the basketball community, and everyone else who has reached out and shared these moments with me. The love of my family and my siblings has grown through this experience. The love of my wife and daughters have grown through these journeys. Again, with all honesty, the love and support of basketball community has helped me tremendously through this process. I love what this game has given to me, and I am proud to call myself an Eagle forever.
I never had a plan to quit. Basketball has carried me until the very end, and the love of my people has carried me until the very end.
Over the years, I've been asked if I would ever return to coaching boys basketball, and the answer is a resounding no. I love girls basketball. We were never able to get that elusive state championship, but being inducted tonight into the WSGBCA Hall of Fame has me feeling like a champion after all.
We are going to end this with a final break. If you know it. Eagles on three. 1, 2, 3, Eagles. Thank you.
Very inspirational. Thank you, lady. Please do keep Coach Evans and Coach Marsh in your prayers. Beloved coaches that we all respect in our communities. Next, we are going to honor Coach Ken Roberts and introducing him is Coach Morgan Green.
I knew it would be tough to follow up Joe tonight, but I'd just like to acknowledge that I actually coached my second varsity game when Ken had COVID against Joe in our home gym. And Joe came right up to me. He shook my hand, which is not necessarily my usual experience. Usually people walk past me into Steve Riedemann, who looks much more in charge, but he stood and chatted with me and respected me just as much as he would any other head coach. And I'm just appreciative of the years of battle that we have had between Snohomish and Arlington, some truly legendary games. My name is Morgan Green. I graduated from Snohomish High School in 2013 and played for Ken. I like to say the years that I played for Ken were kind of the armpit of Snohomish basketball. It's right after the split with Glacier Peak, and Brian Hill is here, but to say it was a split isn't even fair. I think 90% of the talent went up the hill, and we were left with what we were left with. So I think I have a unique experience in Ken's coaching time. I also am back coaching with him the past 4 years and teaching at Snohomish High School. So I've really come full circle. Ken reminded me when he asked me to speak that this is not a roast, Morgan, and you actually have to say some nice things about me. So I'm gonna do my best to behave. In the centers of your tables earlier, I was handing out rocks. One of the young women who was helping saw some of them on a table, and I saw her telling her mom, there's rocks back here. I'm not kidding you, there's rocks. And so those are from me, but if you wouldn't mind at your table grabbing a rock from the center or passing them around, I'm gonna use that as part of my talk. Ken always says, and I saw it in the program, you're a basketball player or an athlete for a short time and you are a human being or a person for your life. So any of Ken's former players know that it's always been bigger than basketball. I reached out to players from the last decade, and that's the common theme, that all of us had some bigger takeaway than what we got on the court with Ken. One of Ken's favorite ways to teach these character lessons is through his talks. And all of our current players who are here know what I'm talking about, and former as well. Ken likes to give talks each week at practice, and it's evolved to also include some type of prop, hence the rocks tonight. There's been several rock talks. One rock talk involved gravel, and him and I went across the street from the school to his church to get handfuls of gravel out of the parking lot, which he said was okay because he had asked his pastor ahead of time, which I think is a total lie, but it's a lie. I knew it, but tonight we're talking about smooth rocks, and the purpose of these smooth rocks is the idea that these rocks are the ones that you would find on the beach next to the ocean where the waves crash down. And this is a talk that I've heard from Ken, I think honestly as a player and as a coach with him. But the constant crashing of the waves on the coast, of course, erodes and kind of grinds down a rock to make it smooth. It takes away its rough edges and its imperfections. And that's exactly what Ken does in his program from day one. When you walk in as a freshman to when you leave as a senior. And again, not just as a basketball player, but as a person. He's certainly taken away some of my rough edges, and there's still some to be crashed out with the waves. When you feel your rock, you'll again feel how smooth the edges are, and that's a process. That's not how every rock starts. I think Ken always used this to say that coaching and parenting and any role of leadership really are this constant crashing of the waves, right? It's the encouragement, it's the praise, it's also, getting pulled off and getting a talking to on the bench. But you have to have the ebb and flow, and it has to be constant and consistent. Another quote that Ken uses often, particularly with me when I'm particularly frustrated or impatient as a teacher or coach, is from our coach, Keith Gilbertson, who was a longtime coach at Snohomish High School. His bust is in the entrance to our gym as you walk in. You get them where they are and you take them as far as you can. Ken is also a master of that. He takes whatever group he has, he finds roles for every player, he finds schemes every year that maximize the potential of his teams. I came into Snohomish High School after Katie Benson, now Simonson, and they had placed second at state, and then of course the split, and then I was the armpit years, as I like to call them. My freshman year, we were certainly the gravel from across the street. We were the jagged rocks. Our record was 7-13. My sophomore year, we got 9 wins in that season. My junior year, 11 wins. And my senior year, I believe we finished 15-9. So we finally broke the elusive 500 marker. So not typical of what you think of when you think of a Ken Roberts coached team. But what I remember is that Ken never stopped coaching us in any game, in any practice. He knew what he had, and he knew how far he could get us, and he was going to get every ounce out of us. The neat part was that in every game we played, and there was some great teams in Wesco at that time, I always believed that we had a chance that we would win, just because of the way he prepared us and the way he game planned and the fundamentals. I knew what our schemes would be. Maybe we needed the other team to shoot a poor percentage that night or for their great player to have a bad game. But I never felt like there wasn't a shot for us. And I think that's a mark of a good coach. Ken also, the crashing of the waves, us players who have been coached by him know that he is very honest and straightforward in his communication. So again, those waves continue to crash. At the same time, he has the words that mean more to me than anybody else in the world, like more than my own parents. If Ken gives you praise, then that is of the highest value because you know that he says what he means. And I'm so grateful for that, to still have him in my life, to give that to me. I remember one time at practice, I must have been a sophomore or junior, I don't know, actually maybe sophomore. And I was playing point guard. I still have to have Steve Riedemann call timeouts for me because I don't care how hard I try, but my voice just doesn't carry. And Ken told me that as we were running our offensive sets, every time that my team couldn't hear the play I was calling, I had to do 10 push-ups. I think to this day, that's why I'm so good at doing push-ups, because I did a lot of them. And he didn't let down on it. It wasn't like, oh, okay, that's enough, just do 5 this time. No, I did 10 push-ups every time. So I owe him my great arm definition now, I suppose. But Ken sticks to what he says. He believes that you're capable of more than you believe you're capable of. And he's continued to do that in my life. He got me my first coaching job in Sunnyside at my first teaching job. I knew nobody there, but the head coach walked right up to me the day after he had a phone call with Ken and said, hey, I heard you're Morgan Green. I just talked to your coach, and yeah, we'd love to have you on staff. Didn't know a thing about me, and I was 22 years old. Ken also helped me to pursue and step into the role as ASB advisor at Snohomish High School. Vince Iveli is here, who came before me, but I never would have thought of myself in that position of leadership. But Ken's the one who really pushed me and advocated for me to consider that. Ken in my adult life has been just as much a pillar as when I was growing up. Ken and Kiffin are my second parents, and my own parents know that, but just adulthood isn't easy either, right? Life doesn't really ever get any easier. I had a phone call with Ken just a couple of years ago, and he always starts with, how are you? Every single phone call. And I said, I kind of immediately broke down. I was not doing great. And he hung up and showed up at my doorstep and sat with me for like an hour, just talking through things and how I was doing and how he could support me. And that's day in, day out. Like, I get to be at work with him every day. In the ways him and Kiffin have supported me, I know that's not unique to me, but to his other players as well through their trials and successes in life too. So thank you, Coach Roberts, for all the waves, the pushing and pulling, and the continual push to this day to smooth out my edges. Your words and feedback and praise mean more to me than anyone else, because I know everything you say is honest and authentic and consistent. You've been an absolute pillar for me in my adult life and some of my hardest times of my adult life. But I can't thank you enough, and I'm so grateful that I get to sit on the bench next to you for however long we have. I'd also like to introduce, again, from the second place state championship almost team. This is my idol. When I went to youth camps, Katie was the player coach that I looked up to the most, so I still have a little bit of fandom for her. This is Katie Simonson.
Oh, I was like, what is happening? Thank you, Morgan. I have to say this full transparency, when Coach Roberts first asked me to do this, I told him on the phone, I was like, so that means I'm your favorite. And I was like kind of excited about it. And then I heard Morgan was also, an introductory speaker. So I was like, okay, we can share it. I like to be first in everything I do, but that's fine. Since you call him Ken and you got props from Coach Roberts, I'm like, okay, Morgan, you get the favorite, for this one time. But I was able to play for Coach Roberts and also come back and coach with him. And you have to know, I've known Coach since I was in 4th grade. And I'm now in my 30s, which is kind of crazy. I'm getting older, just a little bit. I, threw out my neck the other day, which is like, okay, this is when your 30s are like. Okay. I'm a little bit more mature, but wow, the body is kind of breaking down. But I've known Coach for a very long time, and being up here, you have to know how much of an honor this is that you asked me to do this. Because I respect you so much. I'm gonna roast you a little bit tonight. Sorry, Taylor. Kidding. But you have just so impacted my life. You've so impacted so many people in this room's life, my family's life. And this just means the world to me. So with that, I am a PK, I'm a pastor's kid. And unfortunately, my dad didn't say, you know, keep it short. He just said, keep talking. So I will try to keep it short and succinct. But one thing that he did pass along to me was 3 points. So I've got 3 points and of why Coach Roberts is great. Point number 1, he is an incredible strategist and teacher. Coach Roberts is incredible when it comes to X's and O's. And I will get to all the other stuff in a minute, but I cannot say this enough. The amount of plays on the offensive end and defensive end that all of his teams had to know and run so incredibly well. Some of the current players, yes, nod. Do you still have to know a lot of? Yes, you do. Okay. I'm like, give me affirmation. Was it just my teams? Come on. I mean, we didn't get rocks. What the heck? But one of the things that's amazing, and I think this is why there's so many plays that we learned and we knew, was that was his brain. His brain was constantly moving and thinking and tweaking and, you know, doing all these little things. And being on the coaching side with him, bus rides home were interesting. And depending on the trip, if it was long, you know, I'd like to say we didn't literally draw straws, but us as assistants would kind of look at each other like, who's going to be kind of the yes man as Coach Roberts is like drawing up plays for, you know, if you're up in Linden, that's like a 2.5 hour drive. So that's a long time, a lot of plays. And, you know, there's been a lot of times that I was that person. So, you know, it's like I'm nodding like, yes, okay, yeah, cool, okay, yeah. It got to a point where it's like, are we on offense or defense? I don't even know. Okay. There's just so many plays. But you just had to let him do his thing. He's a verbal processor, or as the kids say, you had to let him cook. Did I do it okay, Gen Z's in here? No? Okay. Okay, we're good. Skip over that. But he was just so incredible. And if you coached against Coach Roberts, I mean, I was confused sometimes what we were doing, but you would have to be so confused of what were you facing, especially defensively. He was so tactical in everything that he did, and he was just such a genius on that end. But it's one thing to be a genius. You gotta have your players do what you want them to do, and an incredible teacher of it. There was a standard, a Coach Roberts standard, and just like what Morgan alluded to, didn't matter who you were, you had to always make that standard. As a player, I don't think I realized the difference between why I'm a foot off. What's the point of that? But he was so into the details as a coach. He actually taught me an eye for those details that really helped me when I coached in college too. It's all in the details with him, which was just incredible. It is not by accident the success at Snohomish under Coach Roberts. At state, he was constant. I mean, all his teams outperformed their ability. He did such an amazing job with each and every team. Even my teams where we had a decent amount of talent, he got the most out of us strategically, which was just incredible. Number 2, he taught life lessons. I loved how basketball was always a tool to teach something bigger. Snohomish is such an amazing town. I always describe it as a small, big town. It's actually huge, the territory. But it was never about the individual. He saw individuals, but the individual was never bigger than a team. And the team was never bigger than your town. You always played with pride with the Snohomish Panthers on your chest. And that was just so impactful for me and everyone that I played with, that it wasn't about us. If you were a selfish player, you weren't probably going to like your time under Coach Roberts. He would not stand for that at all. It was always about the team and always playing for something bigger than yourself, which is such an incredible gift. One way that he kind of helped illustrate these life lessons was for my teams at least, I don't know if you're still doing this, I think you might be, but he would read children's stories before games. If you want to know how to have a good pregame talk, just grab a little kid's story. I kid you not, I mean, little children's story, and read it to your girls. And what I learned, one, actually pretty profound things are in kids stories, but then two, it actually, as a player, I remember I got so nervous before games. I wanted to do so incredibly well. I wanted to perform all of that. And I could just dive into a story about crayons and how every color had its role in the bigger picture. But it's like, I wasn't thinking about basketball. It actually relaxed me. Coming back and coaching with Coach Roberts, I saw, it was fun being on the kind of other side of it and watching the girls, their shoulders just kind of relax, just kind of exhale as he would just read these stories. Some of them were new, some of them were when I was playing, but it was so cool to see. It was just so masterful. One quick story was when my first coaching job ever, I was kind of like Randy, I didn't want to coach. I was like, that's not going to be me. I came back home from playing overseas in England, and Coach Roberts was like, hey, you're not doing anything? Come coach. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, no, come on. And I didn't have a job. So that was like, okay, well, I'll coach, I'm not doing anything else. And he's like, okay, well, we need a freshman coach. I didn't get JV. I got the freshman team. So we're going to talk later. So I was like, okay, if you've ever coached just freshman girls, it's an interesting experience. So I remember our first game, and our first game, of course, is against Glacier Peak, which, as Morgan alluded to, some of the talent went up there. And, when you're sitting as a coach and you're just looking at the other team and you're like, they're making both right-handed and left-handed layups. We're kind of in trouble, okay? And I remember the coach at the time, she came over to me and she started just talking about how bad they are. And I'm like, have you seen my team? The one girl finally made a 10-footer. That's the first time, So needless to say, we get killed by 40 points, which looking back is actually, I count that as a win. I mean, it could have been way worse. But there was one story that as a player, I did not understand, because the children's story, the premise of what was this. It was about a little baby alligator wanting to eat a child. And, out of all the books that actually I really understood, I got the point, that was one I just couldn't understand, like what's the point of this little baby, alligator wanting to eat a child? Seems a little gruesome. Obviously, you guys all seem like that's normal. So, whoa, we'll talk later too. But after that game, I remember going to coach and I just said, do you have the book of the alligator, wanting to eat a child? He's like, yep. Pulled it out of his briefcase and he gave it to me. And the whole point of that story, which I finally understood later, and was that the little baby alligator, he wanted the ultimate goal right at the beginning. What he needed to do is that he had to actually take baby steps. He had to eat bananas in order to grow, in order to conquer or get the goal that he wanted. And I remember I took that book and I got my girls to huddle around. I was like, we've got a ways to go, but here's a book. Here's our story. And that is just so Coach Roberts with his teams, and then just even with just in life. That it's that growth mindset, it's the baby steps. Lastly, he's a gold digger. I want a little bit more chuckles, but that's fine. Some of you guys don't know Kanye's song, but that's okay. Okay, so it's not that. But what I love the most about Coach is that he sees the gold in every single one of his players. You talk to him, he will talk about 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids that are coming up through and how good they are. And I'm thinking, even as a college coach, I would watch freshmen in high school play. I'd be like, oh, they're no good. Well, by the time they're graduating, they're going to UConn. So I kind of missed the boat on the gold part. But he sees the potential and the gold in players. Obviously, from a basketball standpoint, that's what he sees. But even as a person, he sees who they can be, even when they don't see it for themselves. I just think I've witnessed it as a player, but then seeing it as coaching with him, just different girls that were called up to a certain standard when they weren't given that opportunity in their life. And the freedom that they've experienced discovering, wow, I can do this. I do have the grit. I do have the character. I can persevere. That is one of the greatest gifts that anybody could ever give. And so with that, I have to read this last paragraph, otherwise I'll mess it up. Coach Roberts is great. In order to be great, you have to say no to a lot of things. It takes sacrifice, and it requires not taking the easy road or lowering standards. It takes doing the hard things. There is a parable in the Bible about a narrow and wide road. Coach, you've chosen the narrow, less traveled road. And tonight we get to celebrate you because of that. And most importantly, we get to celebrate all the lives you've impacted and changed because you did, mine included. Congratulations, this is your night. With that, it is my honor to introduce Coach Roberts.
Yeah, I was a lot better coach when the girls were taller than me than when they were shorter than me. So, no,
Some rocks.
it's hard to follow up what you guys are going through in Arlington, and there have been some great battles there. My dad died of prostate cancer, and girls, I feel for you. I remember my mom was part of the Snohomish community forever, and it was you know what? I know Dad was the coach he coached at Snohomish, different sports. But the community loves you too. And I've had 3 friends pass away this year in Snohomish that are teachers, and had to tell their wives the same thing, that this community loves everybody, the husband and the wife, the coach and the wife. You guys take care of them, and I know you will. Okay. Bruce Evans over here, Angie McGuire. Our girls basketball rep is doing a great job representing girls basketball in Wesco. I just realized as I was preparing for this and saw his name, when I was an assistant for Kurt DeHaan at Linda Christian, we came down to Edmonds Woodway and played in 1988, and we talked about how great that team was and how hard they worked. And it's an honor to be here. Being honored tonight with these people is great. Coaches in the back that I've coached with and against, Dan Taylor, you guys that have taken the girls basketball in this state to a new level. I really appreciate all of you as well. So thank you. Over here, I wasn't sure what to put on the memorabilia pack or on that spot, but I'm from Snohomish. I grew up in Snohomish. I lived a block away from Snohomish High School till I was 2 years old, and then we moved out of town, but still in Snohomish. My mom got a job in 1965 there. She's right here. And my dad got one a couple years later after getting out of the Army. Since that time, there's been a Roberts coaching in Snohomish since 1965. I wasn't here the whole time. My sister's back here. She took over there for a while. And my brother also became a teacher and a coach. And my parents loved what they did. They loved the town of Snohomish. And I came to love it as well. And I want to thank them for doing that for me when I was younger. So both of them really, Frosty Westring talked about make it big time where you are. And I talked to my dad's memorial a while ago, and that's something that he did. And my mom did. They made the big time where they were. And Snohomish was that for them. And again, I really love that about you guys, and it's been a big part of my life ever since. It was a great place to grow up. We were pushed by our coaches. We had great coaches that made sure we were committed to excellence as players, as people. And my philosophies today came from the people that I was able to be raised by that village, I guess. I was able to be raised by them. After high school, or actually when I was going through high school, Danny Beard, where are you? Bro. When I was going through high school, we went to NBC camps, and I met a man named Danny Beard, along with a lot of other really good people from Northwest basketball camps. I would eventually become a full-time staffer there, working in the summers, got to coach 2 tour teams, got to play on 2 tour teams. A lot of my philosophies were also shaped by the people I met there. When I was at NBC camp, the last year I was there coaching full-time, Kurt DeHaan brought his team from Linden Christian to the camp, and I was going to be at Western the next year, and so I kind of weaseled my way in there and asked him, you know, I'm going to be up there, could I be an assistant coach? And I don't know if you guys know Linden, but if you're not blonde and Dutch, good luck. Okay. So the speech I got was, well, I already have some assistant coaches, and you won't sit on the bench. You'll be back here, back in the back corner of the gym during the games. But no, but by the time the season started, I was on the bench with Kurt, and fortunate enough to be part of 3 state championships up there for him. 772 wins as a high school basketball coach. All of things By the way, Kidman, if I average 20 wins a year for 17 more years of coaching, I can catch him. Yeah, okay. So Kurt and Sandy, I actually lived with them when I was up there, became part of their family, and they're part of our family. I was the big brother to their kids, and I really enjoyed my time up at Western with them, so thank you. From that job, I went over to Bridgeport and coached boys for 3 years. And then after that, I went to Tahoma High School in Maple Valley and coached boys basketball there as well for 6 years. There I met Tracy Krause, who's back here. Tracy was basically a college student, educational assistant at the time. He's been PE Teacher of the Year twice in the state, National PE Teacher of the Year. Now he's the assistant superintendent at Tahoma, again, making the big time where he is. I love being around people that do that, and he's one of those people. So thank you. It was in 2000 that I came back to Snohomish, and I took a teaching job. I didn't take a coaching job. I just took the teaching job up here. And about a month later, Mark Albertine, who's back here, retired. He's been coaching since 1975. I think it's pretty cool, 2 coaches in one town since 1975. Mark was kind enough to leave the program when they were loaded. Thank you. You gave me a chance. Because if it would have been when the school split, it would have been different. But I had a chance, and we had a very, very good team. So I was doing the clock at a football game 2 years ago, and I was sitting there. I just pushed my chair back at halftime. I looked at the guys in the booth. One had gone to high school with me. One had been mentored by my dad. One had started teaching at Snohomish before I left. And I just said, I have done nothing with my life. Absolutely nothing. I go, when I was a 5th grader, I was up in this booth with my dad. Every game. Never missed a football game. And I was like, I've gone nowhere. But as I started thinking about this speech, it really got to the point where I was thinking, you know, what have I done while I've done nothing with my life? And this is going to be a little different as far as a speech. I'm not going to talk about basketball very much. But while I've done nothing, I met Gordy Brockman and Becky. Gordy hired me. He was the AD at that time. And Kirsten was going to be a senior. And she was amazing as a basketball player. John Brockman played in the NBA. Kirsten was a better player than John. But she tore her ACL and had a lot of injuries. I watched their older son, Paul, tear his ACL. And then I watched John go to the NBA. Gordy and Becky never changed. They were the same people. They trusted God, and they were great people and great role models for my wife. And their kids were great role models for my daughter. I remember John, 6'8" John, going down to pick my daughter up at Sunday school class and walking her up. Snohomish is a great place. And while I was doing nothing, I got to meet Gordy. Mark Albertine became an AD. He was a coach for me in high school, later became an AD. And I got to meet Mark and become friends with Mark. And that was special to me as well. Mark Perry, Keith Gilbertson, Wayne McMaster, Barry Rodlin, John Mitchell, all coaches for me in high school, who I was either the head coach and they were my assistant, or I got to be an assistant coach with them. John and Carol Mitchell over here, he was my young life leader with Carol, freshman football coach, and I got to coach for freshman football when I came back to Snohomish with John, and I'm thankful for that. Carla Dobbins, Carla and Rodney. Carla started coaching at Snohomish in 1992, and I just tied you for years coaching basketball at Snohomish this year. Wow. She was the transition. She was from Mark to me. She had to roll her eyes a lot those first few years, but she was loyal, hardworking, great coach, and they still come to all the games. And I do take it as a challenge, and the girls that showed up after the track meet today had better take it as a challenge. She told me they actually enjoyed watching the boys' games more than the girls this year, and that is not acceptable. We'll be back next year, okay? Brian Hill started coaching with me up at Snohomish, and back when we were both a lot younger. But Brian was an assistant coach for 3 years, and those were fun. Those were a fun 3 years. And when the Glacier Peak job opened, we didn't know what was going to happen talent-wise. We've been running youth camps. I remember Brian and I walking around at a youth camp. What school are you going to? Man, you see this 6-foot 4th grader Glacier Peak. All right, yeah, okay. So we knew what was going to happen, but I was not leaving Snohomish. Again, that was not going to happen. But Brian got the job at Glacier Peak, and it has been a lot of fun having, I don't even think it's a rivalry. We haven't ever been in the same league. We've done team camps together. We've pushed each other. He got his 300th win this year and was 4A Coach of the Year. Congratulations, and thank you for your time and putting with us. Yeah, give him a hand. I've been able to coach with former players. Ann Bailey, where are you at, Annie? There you go. Sorry for all you other people, but I'm just recognizing our Snohomish folks tonight. Ann Bailey was probably one of the best players I ever got to work with, and definitely one of the best people. Katie, we're not going to do the favorite thing, okay? But Annie went to Gonzaga, was a captain there, came back and coached with us, is a part of a farm family from Snohomish, still in town. It's been great to watch her husband, their kids, just seeing a girl grow into such a great young lady. So thank you, Ann, for the time you put in. You carried us for a couple years, and I appreciate that. Morgan Green, having her on staff and having her as our ASB advisor is exciting to me. As a former coach, to be able to work with her is so rewarding, and she's so gifted, and it's so fun. Katie Benson, getting to coach with you was phenomenal. It was a laugh a minute. You guys, she never shuts up. It was a laugh a minute. Okay, and Mike, I don't know how you do it, but Mike is the coach down at Viola, and you guys, it's so fun watching you from afar and just watching what you're doing. I've enjoyed watching that a lot. I had a manager back then, Joel Boyer, who became the big girl in practice for a lot of years for us when he started helping us out. He's back at Snohomish coaching now, coaching varsity tennis on both teams. And again, while I was doing nothing with my life, I've had all these rich relationships that have been so meaningful to me, as a person. Steve Riedemann, I remember you came over to my dad's, hospital room. And the first thing he said when he heard your voice was, "This guy is a great coach." And just having mentored you when you were younger, and for me to get to have you as an assistant coach now means a lot. Thank you, and thank you, Cheryl, for letting us have him. I appreciate that. I got to know the Gallatin family, and coaches know that there's a lot of time, not very often, where you don't know the parents when they come into the program, and they become great friends after they're in the program. They had 3 daughters play for me, so I had a lot of chances to mess it up. And yet they've become great friends. Chad and Andy Care, phenomenal people. 2 daughters tore their ACLs while they played for us. Again, they never changed. They had a girl that went to D1, they had 2 others go on and play, but they never changed as people. And I was gonna be careful how I worded this about the Gallatin girls being very different. They're really unique. 2 of them are very different. I mean, if you knew them, they are very different, but they are unique. Kinsley is gonna be a teacher next year, just finishing up student teaching. And she's gonna coach with us this summer and just help our girls out. Excited to see you doing what God gave you a gift to do. It's cool. Ella at Eastern, captain, leader, phenomenal player, phenomenal person. Addie loves life, is an amazing kid, and a great leader as well. And Maya, working with you in FCA has been awesome. It is so cool to see your heart and see what kind of person you are. I love that family, and basketball did that for me. It's pretty cool. Friends that I made, Idelia's, Leslie and Vince, ASB leader, ASB basically Hall of Famer. And he took over the golf job after I was done coaching golf. I'm looking forward to doing life with you guys. It's been fun. Get to know you, being friends. It's been great to get to know people like that throughout my life. Nate and Paula Duchesne. Over here, I have some pictures. One is me shooting a free throw while Nate's in the background watching me, and the other one, Nate's doing something really athletic, and I'm watching him. He was a year in front of me in school, and we were on a team that got 5th in state, and I know that we were very impacted by our coaches. There are 6 kids from my basketball team in high school that are now, or have been, or are now high school coaches. That tells you something about how special Snohomish was at that time. Pretty cool that I have 6 girls coaching right now in high school and 4 in college. That's pretty neat too. It's kind of fun that that's happened. But Nate and Paula came back to Snohomish, and Nate's now our principal. And it's really neat to see the direction our school's heading. COVID was tough on all of us, but the fact that we are so far beyond that at Snohomish right now and moving toward being what we used to be, expecting boys to be men instead of what they have been the last few years is a big part of that. Nate's part of that. Zach Ward is part of that, our new athletic director, and Jeff Larson, the boys coach, who also graduated a couple years behind me. It was fun to watch this year's boys team play. And Jeff, I've done this a lot of years. Jeff took a break from Redmond High School boys varsity to Glacier Peak principal. He got smart and came back into basketball coaching and teaching. But it was really nice to see the energy and passion. And I lost some of that this year. It was a rough year off the basketball court, as the girls know that are here too. We had some good friends pass away, but I lost some of that, and that will not happen again. I'll promise my girls that. You may not like it, but that will not happen again. There's going to be some energy next year. But Nate and Paula, small group members with us. Paula's friendship with Kiffin. Looking forward to doing life with you guys too. But again, just having people that have been with you throughout your life and this journey means a lot to me. Our players that we have, I love coaching kids. I love working with kids. These guys had a big track meet today, and they came down here afterwards, which is neat. I'm looking forward to getting to have a relationship with you guys. like Katie's, like Morgan's, like the Gallatin girls after you graduate. Okay, we've got work to do, but we're gonna have fun doing it. I'm looking forward to those relationships as we grow. Going back to Zach real quick, Snohomish is a great place. And you're following a legend and an athletic director, but the fact that you are making Snohomish the big time you're doing a great job, and I appreciate that, so thank you. And I will spell it with an H from now on, instead of a K. Okay. My family, I had two that got sick today. They called up and couldn't make it over. Roger Williamson, is my cousin. We used to take our boys teams and girls teams to Spokane, and we'd stay at his house. We'd have 25 kids. We'd show up at their house and stay in the basement. He supported us the whole way through, and has been a great part of my life, throughout the whole thing. Dirk and Danny, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, appreciate you guys. I'm glad you live in Woodinville. It's been fun having our kids about the same age, being able to raise kids together, do life together, and just watch your kids' success in athletics as well. I appreciate you guys. Anna Blaine, my sister, I used to hear about my dad. He was my favorite teacher. I hear that all the time from people that are 70 years in Snohomish, still tell me that. 70 years old, tell me he was my favorite teacher about my dad. I've heard that a lot about you, sis. Okay. I've heard that a lot about you as kids came from the junior high to high school. She was my favorite teacher. You did a great job with that. And you're 1 year a volleyball coach. You got coach of the year during that weird COVID season. Then you guys had to move to Arizona, but it was a lot of fun raising our kids together in Snohomish, watching them grow up in the town that mom and dad loved. Doing it together has been great. Blaine, looking forward to life with you too. And golfing, having fun, enjoying our kids. And eventually I'll catch you with the grandkid thing, maybe if my kids ever decide to go that route. Okay. Ward and Nancy, one of my favorite years at Snohomish was when you guys were, Kiffin was on bed rest with Kat, and you were staying with us for the year because she couldn't be out of bed. And you fell in love with our girls, got to know our girls. We talked basketball every night, and I really enjoyed that. It's the fact that you coached in high school and prepared your daughter to be a coach as well. I really am thankful for that as well. So thank you. Mom, you've been supportive the whole way. I just went through my folder tote that you gave me, and I cannot believe all the things that were cut out that I could have put up here because of you. But you're at every game, so supportive, and I appreciate that as well. My daughters, Annika and Katrina. Annika's over in Italy, and Kat's in Nashville right now, and they couldn't be here. But I got to coach them in high school. They weren't super aggressive. They liked to nap between them in volleyball. They liked to be in the pool. They were really good golfers, but they blinked on rebounds, and that doesn't make it in Snohomish basketball. I love the kids. They're both great kids and doing amazing things, and I'm so proud of them. It was neat to see them look up to the girls I got to coach, and later on be looked up to by many kids that I got to coach as well. Kiffin, 30 years this July 15th. Looking forward to it. My first year at Snohomish, we had a crushing loss, missed a 1-1, down 1, and ended the game, had dominated the game, but lost the game. The girls were real upset. I was real upset, and we all moped around that night. And we were good. Kirsten was out, but we were still good. And we came back the next day and laid an egg. That was embarrassing. And Kiffin chewed me out after that game. Absolutely chewed me out. What do you expect? You're moping around. You're at the state tournament. Go play a game. We haven't lost. We have placed every time that we've gone to state since that talk. When the game is over, we move on and we play the next one, which I should have known. But Kiffin, thank you for that. Much more than that, thank you for raising our daughters. Thank you for all that you've done while I'm busy coaching. As I was getting ready for this, I just realized this year's basketball season was my 70th season coaching a high school sport. counting, head coaching, assistant coaching. That's a lot of years and a lot of pressure on you and a lot of time from you. But I love you and thank you so much for our life. Again, it's been a journey. It's been a lot of fun. I do appreciate everybody that's here and want to respect everybody's time going forever, but I really wanted to make this for me about our community, about thanking the people that have meant so much to me over the years. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Last but not least, we have Shane Wickers. Shane will be honored by Erica Van Dyken. And from my hometown, the great Danny Beard.
Yeah, I gotta go before Danny because he's popular. All right, again, my name is Erica Van Dyken, and I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm a little nervous. I teach middle school and I can do that every day, but a bunch of adults makes me a little shaky. All right, so tonight we have the privilege of honoring someone who has dedicated his life to the game of basketball, but more importantly, to the people in it. For me, the journey with Shane Wickers started long before I put on the Nooksack jersey. Before he was Coach Wickers, he was Mr. Snickers, the coolest elementary PE teacher a kid could ask for. And while most of my peers probably remember him for the fun games we did in gym class, I remember him for something even more special. As a little girl who loved basketball, but had no real connection to the high school program, Shane gave me an opportunity that changed everything. He let me be the varsity team's ball girl. So from 1998 to 2003, I wasn't just watching from the sidelines. I was a part of something bigger than me. I got to be around the players that I admired, experience the bus rides, the pregame talks, and even the end of the season banquets. It was the first time I saw what it meant to truly be a pioneer. I didn't realize it then, but I was getting an early glimpse of the culture Shane was building. One where everyone felt included, valued, and part of something bigger than themselves. By the time I reached high school, the impact of Shane's program was already deeply ingrained in me. And growing up in the Everson-Linden area, there was always another option, the private Christian school just down the road. I'm glad Coach is here tonight too. The program with a strong reputation and plenty of success. And a lot of my select teammates played for Coach DeHaan there. And at one point prior to high school, my dad even asked if I wanted to transfer. But after spending years as Shane's ball girl and experiencing firsthand the culture he had built and the way he made me feel like I belonged, there was never a doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a pioneer. And I'm so glad I was. Playing for Shane in high school was everything I hoped it would be. Sure, we had some big wins, exciting moments on the court, and some tough losses. But what I remember most are the little things, like getting stuck in the past in the freezing weather on our way home from the Yakima Christmas tournament, or playing laser tag in Canada with our team, or team dinners, or that one karaoke night at a teammate's house where Shane sang an unforgettable rendition of Every Rose Has Its Thorn, which I might add deserves its own Hall of Fame recognition. But beyond all the fun, what stood out about Shane as a coach was his trust. He truly listens to his players. He values our input, and he gives us confidence to play freely and believe in ourselves. And that's something I carried with me beyond high school. After graduating from Nooksack,
I was fortunate enough to play for another incredible coach, Carmen Dolfo at Western Washington University. And when my time at Western was over, I wasn't sure what my next step would be, except that I knew I wanted to coach. So naturally, I reached out to Shane, and in true Shane fashion, he welcomed me back with open arms. And fast forward 10 years, and here we are. So over the past decade, Shane and I have had the privilege of coaching some incredibly talented teams. And some, while maybe not the most naturally gifted, played with relentless heart. No matter the talent level, our players left our program with a solid understanding of defensive fundamentals, improved offensive skills, and a higher basketball IQ than when they first joined us. But beyond the X's and O's, our goal has always been bigger than the game itself. We strive to make every player feel like they are a part of the Lady Pioneer family. And as many of you know, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes late nights, hours of film study, endless strategizing, player and coach meetings, goal setting, and long phone calls. Just ask him. And but through it all, we've had a blast. And the program is very special. And Shane and I work really hard to make our players feel loved and valued. But what's even more special is that Shane has done that long before I ever joined his staff. And so through the highs and lows of each season, the long hours we've spent together and the shared commitment we have for our players, I have gained more than just experience. I have found my second family. Shane and his wife, Kim, and their kids, Colby, McKenna, and Owen, have become an extension of my own family. The Wickers have watched me grow as a coach, as a wife, and as a mom to two wonderful kids. They have supported me through some of the hardest times of my life, including my battle with cancer. They've shown up for me in ways that go far beyond basketball, which sometimes they'd show up to help with yard work or babysitting or just be there for us. And that's why tonight I haven't talked much at all about X's and O's, or wins or trophies, but because Shane is an incredible human. He's a great basketball coach, but it's just something that he does. Because who he truly is the person that builds lasting friendships and relationships. He's a man that leads with kindness, and he makes everyone, players, coaches, and the people he's around better. So Shane, this is a very well-deserved honor, and I'm very grateful you asked me to speak for you. And I'm even more blessed that you've gotten to be my coach, a mentor, and now my friend. So Mr. Snickers, coach, and now Hall of Famer, congratulations. And now I have the awesome honor of introducing Danny Beard. Thank you.
Hey, if you're 50 and over, we probably should take a bathroom break. You right? I know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yes, sir. Come on now. Hey, I'm last. Kenny, thank you. Kenny asked me if I'd give up about 5 minutes of my time for him, so he took about 25 minutes. Just wanted you to know that. Okay. And by the way, I saved my rocks. I thought they were candy, and I was going to eat them. Sorry. So, hey, so you know, I'm gonna stay on my script, okay? So I love this stuff, okay? This is what I love. I'm really privileged and honored that Shane would actually ask me to speak on his behalf, and I've got my script here somewhere.
And I just really am, I'm excited to be here, but there's a bunch of you that I could say something about. I wanted to highlight those real quick. I can speak for Kenny Roberts. And I can tell you some stories. So if you don't hear any dirt, meet me over here. Because I've known him since he was little. I mean, I was looking around Kirby Hahn, oh my goodness, legend right here. Everybody knows that. You know, I got Mike, where's Mike? I got Mike here, and Katie, and Joe Boyer back in the back. Come on, Nate and Shane, where's Nate at? I mean, Nate, I'm saying to myself, I don't even deserve to be in this room. I really don't deserve. And Mrs. Roberts, I remember staying at your home. What a beautiful, wonderful lady you are. You and your, thank you so much for your kindness to me. And Brian, I'm so happy, Brian Gill, you humbled Mark for at least 4 years, and he probably really needed that. I just heard the record. I didn't even know that. You know, 4 wins, 5 wins. I mean, I kept wondering where you were. Okay, it's here for Shane, right? And he gets 3 minutes thanks to the people that went before. You know, I'm really thankful. Where's Dan? Thanks, Dan, for opening up, you know, your facility. And everybody would agree with me that the food was incredible. Those young people at my table were going back for seconds. I wanted to, but I was going a little bit like I probably shouldn't do that. End up running to the restroom and needed to be transparently. I've been there 3 times already. Yeah, just wanted to kind of put it on the table. And Shane, I'm sitting over there getting ready to go and talk. He said, "No, you have to go to the restroom before you go up." And I said, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it." Okay. So I look out here and I see all these wonderful people. And, you know, the thing is that we didn't look at chat. What's it called? I don't even know what it is. Was it Chat GPT? We didn't look at that, but if you think about it, a lot of the communication is really the same. I mean, about coaches that are really caring, coaches that are kind, you know, and when Shane asked me, I said, I don't really need to talk about his X's and O's necessarily because it's all in the book. I was, by the way, where's Artie at? I was at Artie's last year. He filled the room up with his people, you know, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I was there for that. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. So when you get to be 72 right now, don't try to keep notes because I could be all over the place. Okay. But I'm going to focus really on my friend. Shane, how much time do I have left? No. Okay. So, you know, Shane celebrating 29 years as coach. That's what he told me. I'm going to try to stay close as I can to my script. Okay. That's not in my character. Okay. But I'm going to try to stay there. And I was trying to think about the first time that we met, and I kind of talked with him about that. And Shane said he went to an NBC soccer camp. And you know, to me, anybody that was playing soccer at that time, they couldn't make the basketball team, so they chose to play soccer. I'm just kind of being honest, right? So yeah, I guess that's where I met him at, right? But you know, I was directing a lot of camps there. I was involved for 40 years, and we always tried to look and see people that we thought would want to work for us. And so Shane was one of those people that I thought be great to have him on board. And I took over at North Idaho and I asked Shane to come out to be a teacher for me. He came out and he became a master teacher and traveled around with me, went to various of our sites. And you can just see really that there was something special, you know, about Shane Withers. You know, not only as a human being, but also, you know, as a coach. And so he started bringing his teams to the NBC team camps. I believe it was somewhere around 1997. And he and I would stay up late talking. And we still talk to this day because Shane is a learner, right? I'm an old dog, right? So old dogs supposedly know a little bit, right? So I would try to impart maybe just a little bit to him, but he taught me an incredible lot. So I remember at camp one time, he was The team had a 1-3-1, so this is at the team camp, and teams were just struggling with it. So we sat down and we drew out something at lunchtime. I said, Shane, if you run this, you will get a layup. So he got up off the table and he went, got his team together, and they went and had a short practice before they played it. He ran it to a T. He came back to me and says, hey, I need you to know, coach, it really works, but now I have to teach my team to make a layup. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. So I look at coach and I just want to focus on, as Katie has her 3 points from her dad, who was a pastor, mine's not that way. I was an honorary rascal. I would be classified, as my parents said, a knothead. Any of you guys identify with that growing up? Sometimes knothead become pretty good athletes, but sometimes they become criminals. Okay. So when I talk about Coach Wickers, I'm talking about not only his wins and losses, as you've heard from most, but I believe the things that really sets him apart is that he was really willing to give of his self to every student athlete to really help them become the best that they could possibly be. I think Shane has a gift for coaching, but I believe he's a tremendous leader. He had a little basketball skills too. He's a little lefty. He'd sit out in the corner and try to make shots. 1 out of 10 would be good, but he was trying. Okay, we're noticing he had this ability to notice kids that were kind of in the corner a little bit and really trying to really help them instill confidence and believe in themselves, and also believe in the team and what they were trying to accomplish. I think he used this sport of basketball as an opportunity to teach accountability, perseverance, humility, and teamwork. And I'm just really believe this, that any of the players that had an opportunity to be coached under him felt like he was a great guide, a great listener, and he really understood them. And many of them, I heard someone else say it earlier, that I believe they probably looked upon him as a second dad. Now this is the Wickers, the Shane Wickers. I know, by the way, some of my friends called him Witchers. Think about that. That'd be probably, is it Wickers or Witchers? Wickers. Okay. So I just heard when I first met Witchers. I thought that was really interesting. So I have to focus really too on this one thing that is really characteristic of Coach Wickers, is that he was really focused on character. And character, for most of us, believe that character is who we are when no one's really watching, right? And I can remember at Kansas State University that sometimes when our coach would get a phone call and he would take off, and go have to take that in the middle of practice, which they don't do anymore, but they also used to smoke cigarettes. They don't do that anymore either. So there's a lot of things that are really changed. I mean, really, some of you can't get that, but it's back. And so I remember that we would shoot half court hook shot when coach was off the court. Does any of you guys ever do that with Coach Roberts takes off a little bit, half court practice with half court hook shot? No, that's not supposed to happen, right? I mean, there's only a certain time that you take that shot. Coach, what time? When would the person take a half court hook shot? You can't tell me. So you shouldn't be practicing it. But I remember that, okay? And then here's another one. This is talking about when things are happening that are in the dark. I remember in practice one time, one of my teammates, this is in college, he passed gas. And so the coach went around and found out who it was. And he kicked him off the court, and he had to run on the track the whole practice. Now remember, that was a walk-on. And I was just wondering, what if that would have been Coach Lon Kruger, who's a Hall of Famer? What would have happened to him? You know, would he have been running laps around the top because he farted? Character, huh? Who are you in the dark? I believe that, Coach Wickers, if you just check him out, he stayed up late. And just, I mean, he made lots of calls. I know that for a fact. He just was always willing to learn and try to find out how he could be better. He didn't really want to take credit for himself. He always wanted to share the credit, and I appreciate that. Go about Coach Roberts there just a few minutes ago. Shane was wholly interested in coaching the heart of his players, the heart of his players. And he really lived out his faith. And most of you who know him, he believed strongly in Jesus. And he believed that Jesus was the one that allowed him to drives the character that he has. I'd say his family, for me, is pivotal. And I look at Kim, which I've stayed in their home, and just what an incredible partner that Kim has been to him. 29 years of marriage. Wow. Wow. In our day, doesn't happen a lot. Kim is right there with him, beside him through the long nights, as everybody's talked about, the bus ride, you know, the long practices, playoff runs, just no dinner meals together, hardly ever, just difficult. But yet she was right there. I believe that every great coach, there's got to be a family that's behind him. I've known his children. I really only know Kobe. And Kobe didn't even, Kobe, when I was older, he didn't remember who I was. That showed the impact I had on his life. But McKenna and Owen, what a great family. What a great family they are. They really reflect the values that Shane and Kim have for their family. I say to him that you're the man. You are the man. Tonight, for me, we're inducting a friend of mine into the Hall of Fame. We're celebrating a life of purpose, a life of values, a life of service, a life of integrity, a life of faith, and a belief that every young person deserves someone in their corner, someone that they can feel that they're loved and that they're heard. That is my man, Coach Shane Wickers. I've watched you lead, teach, and love people well. And I say thank you, because I'm one of those people. Thank you for being the person. Thank you for being my friend. You're leaving a legacy that's not only in the record books, but in the hearts of many, many people that you've touched. There's a great book that says this: love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag, and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not delight in things that are wrong, but delights in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. When I think of you, Coach Wickers, I think of character, I think of integrity, I think of faith, I think of family. That is the legacy you leave. Congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame, my friend, Coach Shane Wickers.
I wish Dan would have asked if I really wanted to go last or not, because I always said no. But I want to start off just thanking the Girls Coaches Association for this, for selecting me for this great honor. My wife always says when I talk on the mic, I don't hold it close enough because no one can hear me, so I'll really try to focus on that when I'm talking tonight. I also want to congratulate all the other inductees for this evening. It's been incredible to hear your story, and your legacy. When I coach, I use a lot of analogies, and so I just find it that I probably should do the same thing tonight. So tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about icebergs. When you see the top of an iceberg, you're only seeing a small fraction of the iceberg. In fact, research indicates 85 to 90% of the iceberg is actually underwater. Icebergs are typically old because they have originated from a glacier and have traveled great distances. And lastly, icebergs are not salty, even though they float in salt water. The iceberg in this case represents my coaching journey. It's been long, like an iceberg. Start varsity coaching age 24. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I didn't know anything, but I thought I did. You're seeing me, which is the top of the iceberg. But there are so many people who have poured into me, supported me, and encouraged me to get me to this point today. And lastly, my journey is not salty, but rejuvenated by the fresh water of relationships and the learning more about the game every year I coach. It's funny when you look back, you can kind of see how all the pieces fit together. God is at the center of my journey, and He has blessed me with so many amazing opportunities because of the relationships made through basketball. It's unreal. I've always felt like coaching was my mission field, that I wanted to show all my players the love of God. And I want to share about a few of the people who had the most influential impact on me came to this point. So I want to share with you some of the 85 to 90%. First one is Mark Wright. He's a childhood friend. But when I was 18, he asked me to coach. And I said, absolutely no way. Because I came out of high school basketball hating the game of basketball. I didn't want to coach it, play it, ref it, watch it. I had a terrible experience. He twisted my arm, said, come on, we should probably do it. And I gave in. My journey started at age 18. My mom and dad, who through the course of my life, obviously great supporters. As Danny said, I was just kind of a lefty who stood in the corner and shot, maybe made 1 out of 10. That's probably pretty lucky, maybe. But my dad saw that I was getting interested in coaching, and he helped me start our own basketball club in Whatcom County called the Storm. And he did all the administrative work, and he allowed me to grow my craft of coaching, the fundamental stations up at Western, and then we started some select teams, and I did that until I got my first head coaching job at 24. So Mom and Dad, I love you. I thank you for your support. Ken Sugarman, longtime NBC guy. He was working up in Bellingham, and kind of let me tag along with him. And we were talking basketball one night. He was going to come over to our house, and my dad was helping coach. And my dad said, we're not going to talk anything about basketball till you go up and call and ask this girl out. And I'm like, no way. You're really going to make me do that before we talk hoops? I'm like, this is brutal. He's like, that's the deal. So I did. Well, that girl that I called and asked out will later become my wife. So it was actually a really good call by my dad. So that was pretty, that would be really cool. But again, when you look back, you can see how it all kind of is intertwined. Roger Smith, another NBC guy, worked in Spangle, and that's where I met Ken when blew your knee out that night at the staff game. Yeah, it's terrible. I remember that. But Roger let me tag around them and gave me a lot of responsibilities, and again allowed me to grow in the game and my working with players. Danny Beard, first time we met, we just seemed to connect, and he hired me at, like you said, at North Idaho College, and I worked there for many summers, and he allowed me to bring my wife and Colby with us, and the thing I appreciate so much about Danny is, he's pretty wise, he likes to joke around as you kind of can tell. But he, I would just call him so many times, ask him, about what kind of play can I run to defeat this, or what about culture, or how do I prepare my teams for state? And Danny was always willing to give us time. And if he was busy, he'd say, I'll call you later. And he would always call me later. And we talked all the time, still to this day. And so he is someone I look up to as a coach, but more importantly, a friend. Thank you, David. Mark Johnson, our former superintendent of Noxaco High School, who took a chance on a 24-year-old that didn't really know anything. I asked him, why did you hire me? He goes, I think everybody needs a chance at some point. So I don't know, maybe it's a pity, but took a chance on me. So I'm really appreciative of him. Kurt DeHaan, the only thing I would add would be, Dutch, blonde, and 6 feet tall. Can't forget that. But Kurt, it's funny that Kurt shared, and it's been kind of a competitor, and Kurt made me be adaptable, because, the first couple of years, I couldn't even break the press that he put on us. He had like 18 presses. We couldn't even get the ball over half court, so we had to figure out some way to get over half court. So just getting the ball over half court, even though we lost every game by like 50, was a huge accomplishment. But he forced me to think outside the box. I had to do something different, because I didn't have 8 6'2" blonde girls that all could run fast and shoot threes. Over the course of my 29 years, I've had 9 amazing assistants. I laid 2 of them right now. The first one is Dennis Anderson, who we have talked X's and O's for hours. And he asked me so many questions, and it made me make sure I knew what I believed. We learned a lot together watching our kids grow up playing basketball together, and our kids are about the same age. And we'd sit at youth practices watching, what can we learn from this? How can we improve this? And I would say he's been my coaching bro for like the last 11 years. We could talk, we just go on walks, whatever we do, we can talk hoops, and it's easy and it's natural, and it's fun. Erica Van Dyken, it's my next one. As she said, she's kind of ran the gamut, ball girl, varsity player, now varsity assistant, the last 10 years. She's a strong coach, and she has elite organizational skills. And her willingness to share her thinking and challenge my thinking has made me better and pushed me to learn and grow as a coach. Her trust and belief in me while helping us refine our team vision has brought confidence when I've questioned myself so many times it's not working. We got to, throw it out. But she's always, been the constant, like, no, stick with it. We got this, let's tweak this or do something different. The players, had phenomenal players. We've had some really great players in Noxaco. We've had some good players. We've had some players that just come out and given their best. And every single one has had an impact. And I'm very appreciative that they've trusted me, and they've worked hard and committed to something bigger than themselves. Lastly, my family, Kim. I would not be here if it weren't for my wife. So many times through 20 years, our first anniversary, we're in team camp. Sweet. So just giving up over time, knowing that this is my passion, this is what I wanted to do. Being for quite a bit of the season, a single parent, running the kids. Hey, can you pick up the kid? Kind of got in trouble once because I forgot to pick up Colby from school, and it was an hour and a half late. Kind of got in trouble for that one. It only happened once, though. But she's been my constant companion through the big wins, through the tough losses, through all the parent complaints, through the team friction, the one who's always been willing to listen regardless of the time of the day, and literally regardless of the time of the day. And even if I just keep saying the same thing like 47 different ways, she just keeps nodding. And she's actually a pretty good coach now because she's, she hears it all, sees it all. And then my kids, Colby, McKenna, and Owen, for again allowing me to pursue my dream. They spent a large portion of their young life in the gym, which I think they like. I mean, they really have an option. I mean, bring a truck, bring a doll, there's a ball, there's a jump rope, figure something out over there. But I think, my players, my coaches, they loved them. It was like a second family for my kids. And then just some quick memories. Colby was 2 months old, and why not take him to a basketball tournament in Chelan? It's 100 degrees. My wife is sitting in a gym that's 110 degrees next to one of those big industrial fans, keeping Colby. So that was a memory. My fourth year, we had a great team, and we went 26-1. We probably beat Kurt for the first time ever. And I thought pretty much I had arrived, man. I don't know why they didn't put me in the Hall of Fame that year. I mean, I was there. And I realized we got the state semifinals and lost, and I realized the next day, like I still had to put my pants on one leg at a time. I mean, I really thought like when you get there, like it's all going to change. And I realized you never arrive. The game changes, people change, you change. You're always learning. Another thing I'm really proud of is that I've never been married to a system per se. I never trained under another head coach. I didn't play in college, and so I've been willing to try different things, and adapt. Obviously, as high school coaches, we have to adapt to our talent, but that's been something I'm really proud of. And then about 10 or 15 years ago, like I started struggling with my coaching. Like I don't really know if I do this anymore. I just was kind of getting burned out. I was like, what's the point? And it's just about winning and getting, I don't know, getting to state. Part of it is probably Kurt's fault because he never let me beat him. So it's like, well, we're always going to get second or third LC. I mean, they're just that good. But I just had this kind of coaching midlife crisis, really. And so I had to I found this quote recently, and just really stood out to me: to live for the applause of people is to die a very unsatisfied life. I kind of was at that point, like, what am I doing? So I refocused on the bigger picture of growing people and preparing for life after they're done. And so when people said, hey, how good is your team going to be this year? I said, I'll tell you in 20 years, because that's really the test. And how could God really refocus on how could God use me in this job? And that revitalized me. Another lesson that's taken me a lot longer to learn is that my value isn't based on my win percentage, who we beat or we lose to, the number of wins we collect. And that's a really hard thing for coaches and really hard thing for athletes who everything's tied up and they perform well or not. And so I had to learn that. And so I feel like I'm kind of getting a grasp on that a little bit, but it's about giving your best effort and knowing I did everything in my power to prepare for the next game to the best of my ability. And if I've done that, I can't do any more. Coaching basketball is what I do. It's not who I am. And I need to get that message out to my girls, because that's important. I hope you now have a fuller picture of this iceberg that's pushing me up, that's pushed me up. That 85 to 90% that is hidden under the water. And the last thing I want to leave you with is Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. The only last thing I would say is it's unimaginable. When I think about my coaching that I'm up here, that's the power of what God can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. I actually want to make sure I thank each and every one of you for being here. Ladies, most teenagers are kicking it Saturday night, right? You're spending time with your coach, honoring the coach. That's very special. My own players here, some of you traveled very far, even though maybe your coach is from this local area close to here. Some people came from Spokane, Napa Valley, right? I mean, like you've traveled very far just to be here to honor your coach. And to me, that's very inspiring in itself. The message that I got from tonight was life lessons, leadership, and a legacy of love. I mean, I took that from each and every inductee tonight, and I leave here inspired. I don't know if my players are ready to get back into the gym, but I would love to get back into the gym and start that work. Sean Chuck right there, he's ready to roll too, right? Couple of closing thoughts and logistics. One, I want to thank our sponsor, Jostens. We have these boxes for the coaches for they get Hall of Fame rings, and Jostens supplies them they're complimentary, and so which is very awesome. So varsity letter jackets, ladies, Justin. No plug, right? Okay, but they are supplying rings for our coaches. And then I would also like to thank Cloud9 Sports for also sponsoring us with specific things that helped us with our Hall of Fame, not necessarily this evening, but in other logistics that we had for the evening. And then Baden is our official sponsor for our Coaches Association. So I want to make sure that I give them a shout out as well. Coaches, honorees, at the conclusion of our time, I would love for all of you to come up and we can take pictures. Those of you that don't have your coach in attendance, if somebody would like to come up and just hold a plaque in their, in their absence, that would be great. We want to take a closing picture with everybody. Again, thank you, everyone. We appreciate all of your encouragement, the fun times that we brought. This is a family reunion for many people, right? And so it's great for people to reconnect and so forth. You don't have to go home right away. I know it's late. You probably want to, right? Especially for those of you that are traveling from afar, but don't feel rushed by any means. We'll clean up behind everybody and everything. But thank you again for being here. Have a great evening and God bless you all.